Okay. Um,
Hi,
I'm
Carol.
on my phone for right now because I'm having some connectivity issues with my computer, but I only see Tracy. Hi, Tracy.
Tanya's here. Okay, Steve, do me a favor. Moving forward, when we just in time. Okay, everybody is here. Welcome to everyone for being here. Welcome to the community that is out in YouTube land watching us. Thank you for joining us. It is 7:05 and I am calling the meeting to order. Right now, it is anticipated that we will go into executive session. Can I get a motion to adjourn to executive session to discuss the employment history of particular persons being considered for board action this evening?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, we are now going into executive session. Okay, now, thank you, Laser and Ivy. Let's see. it's just me as the host only right now. Let me see. Okay. All right, everyone. We have another minute or two. I will say thank you, everybody, for your patience as we went through a lot of items in executive session. Um, I will say this, normally we do have I'm sorry, our statements from the public. We did receive a lot of questions, and we do have a report from the Facilities and Finance Committee. So we do ask if anyone who has signed up to post questions or pose questions in regards to facilities, anything like that, we asked if you could just hold your question, because the facilities and the finance committee, they are going to present a presentation that may answer a lot of the questions that you have. If they don't, you will definitely have the opportunity to ask those questions still as well. Okay, so board members, are you guys all back?
Here.
I'm here.
Okay. All right. Okay. So Tracy, you ready?
I got my list of speakers here. First, we have Carlisle Denuzio. And I'm trying to see, I don't see the name. Do we know if this person is coming in with a phone or not, or?
She was not requesting to speak.
Okay.
Just wanted her questions answered. And before you begin, I'm gonna
Oh,
start. I need co-hosts in order to run the timer.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. All right, so I am going to, let's see. I need a co-host. All right.
Okay.
Your co-host.
I'm now going to admit the second person on the list, who's Matthew Marzella.
Okay, hello, Mr. Marzella.
Hi, how you doing?
Hi, okay, you can hear us, we can hear you. A clock will come up and you just go through and, ask your questions.
Okay, I have a little something to say. What is the Greenberg Central School District's plan to return full-time to in-person learning? The survey that was sent out last night did not even include questions about combining both cohorts so that children would attend all weeks. How can we even plan for that when you don't have data? Supposedly our infrastructure and ventilation systems cannot handle the entire student body at full capacity. Without data collected, how do we even know the number of families that would be sending children back full time? In theory, it could only be half the kids that want to come back. So if only half the kids want to come back, it should be doable with the new 3-foot distancing rules from the CDC. It is difficult to tell if the district is working on reopening plan because the entire board has created a huge distraction during this difficult year for our children. Every email we get is about a superintendent search or some type of infighting. I don't know why the board decided to search for a superintendent during a pandemic. This search could have and should have waited another year. If you don't see that during a global health crisis that this is not the right time to be focusing on hiring somebody new, then you don't deserve to represent the children of our district anymore. I don't really care about a superintendent search when my child's not in a building learning. I want the children back in schools, not only for academic reasons, but for mental health reasons as well. Our children are suffering by not being in school. And other schools are seeing this and they're figuring out ways to get back into the building. You, the Board of Ed, has been incredibly disappointing during this time, putting our children's education on the back burner. You are all at fault for not extending Dr. Chase's contract to get us through this crisis, and instead
Mr.
spending time and money on a new
Comment,
superintendent.
just make
And
sure.
then we
4
had a,
o'clock, Ivy, I'm sorry.
I'm really
I don't
upset.
mean to-
I'm
I
just
don't-
upset.
I hear you. I hear you. And I'm sorry that you're upset. And I want you to continue your comment. Just make sure that, we're not supposed to discuss or make comments about personnel.
But
So
this is
just,
affecting my child's education.
Mr.
So
Marzella.
I'm not saying you have
and
to
I
hire
understand-
Dr. Chase. I said,
Mr.
you guys
Mr.
made a
Marzella,
mistake
hello,
by
Mr.
pursuing.
Marzella, I'm gonna have to stop you. I want you to continue your comment, and I'm sorry that you are upset. So I want you to continue, and I'm just asking you to please.
I
give
didn't say
no
anybody's
personnel
name.
comment. That's all.
I didn't say anybody's name.
It doesn't matter about a name. You should not be addressing any comment. So I want you to finish. Just please stay away from personnel.
So now we have a rogue board member who has deterred the new superintendent, and all these issues are distractions, and our only issue should be getting our children back in school. The administration and the board should have been working in unison to figure that out before going down any other path. It's beyond me that we don't have a plan yet.
Thank you, Mr. Marzella.
Thank you.
Oh, I forget I'm muted. Sorry. The next speaker.
No. You
What?
did something. Somehow I don't know. Go ahead. I can't see. I don't know if I did it by accident, but Tracy, you go ahead. I'll try to fix it.
Okay, sorry. So the next speaker on our list is Kelly Brett. Sorry, I just want to go up to her name here. I saw her a minute ago. I hope she didn't. Okay, here she is. I'm admitting Kelly Brett now.
Yeah, I can't see. Miss Brett? Miss Brett, can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Can you hear me?
I don't know if it's mine or is it yours. You were slowed down a little bit. So you might have some service issues. I'm not sure, but there will be a 2-minute clock. We do want to remind you that we do not have personnel comments, discuss personal matters during public comments. But please go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm a parent to 3 children in the district. And so I've been hearing about more and more districts in our area planning on opening full-time next month. And I'm deeply concerned that Greenberg is dragging its feet and doesn't have a coherent plan for opening. It sounds like even in the fall. We had moved from our apartment in Hartsdale to our current house with the intent of staying in the district because of the amazing special needs services it has given our eldest son. But the thought of having surrounding districts open full times and ours not has had me considering private school or moving, both ideas which are crushing to me. I already know of parents starting to act on those things, and a mass exodus is only going to hurt our district even more. I know you said we were going to talk about the facilities soon, but it's been a full year and it feels like all that's been done now is quick fixes, fans, and opening windows, while all of our money and resources should have gone to getting school available and ready to go full time once the CDC said we could. So if nothing significant has been done, it feels like the district isn't on our side. And I'm hoping the facilities will also talk about a plan for the ECP children, because I've had very reliable sources within the district saying that our schools cannot open full time because there's no space for the ECP children and the trailers are all rented. And so with 5 months to go, we need to figure out whatever's necessary so the schools can be at full capacity, whether it's like ordering more trailers to be built, using the community center or the library. We just need to stop sitting around and waiting for it to go away and pivot and figure something out. And then lastly, I also agree with Matt that the superintendent looking for a new superintendent during a pandemic was very ill-advised. Whatever internal problem there was, it needed to wait. time and energy and money has been wasted searching for someone new, and now we're back to square one. And we needed our current superintendent, who has been a strong leader, to be completely all in and fixing our district instead of looking for a new job. So
Miss-
right now, I
Sorry, Ms. Brett.
feel like
Ms.
I
Brett.
got my 5 seconds left. We just need to like look
Brett,
for,
hold on
I'm
for a
not
second.
saying anything
Ms.
else.
Brett, hold on for a second. I'm not gonna stop you from getting your last 5 seconds at all. But please be reminded, I just said you could not make we don't accept any personnel matters to be discussed at public comments. But yes, you get the rest of your time.
It isn't a personnel matter. It's saying
I'm
that
telling you that Miss Brett, I'm telling you that it is, and I'm asking you please not to discuss personnel items, but you do get the rest of your time.
I'm saying that how we've spent our time and money has been focused on the wrong things. And what we need to do is stop focusing on those things and focus purely on getting our kids back in full school, full time and safely.
Thank you. I appreciate exactly what you said and how you said it. Thank you. So, Ms.
Okay.
Brett, I'm assuming you're going to stay tuned because I think some of your questions about the facilities will be responded and answered during the presentation.
Yes.
Thank you.
So the next speaker is Amy Wang, and I'm letting her in right now. Antoinette, Amy's in the room.
Okay.
Am I on?
Hi, Amy. I see you here. I'm just going to give a reminder, like I give everyone else, we do not discuss personnel matters for public comments, but please go ahead, Amy.
Okay. So good evening.
Good evening.
Let you know, again, waited a long time. I needed a cup of coffee. So
I'm
first,
sorry about that.
first thing is on 2/9, I've requested a return to 4-minute speak time. Has the board made a decision? Because 2 minutes is really, really, really short. And I feel like I'm not getting all my questions in. So that's one I would like to know. Second, I would like to know when is the projected return or back to full-time schedule for Children of Greenberg. I have 2 kids. One is actually managing well in this pandemic. One is doing not so well. So my average is 50%. Had parent teacher last week, and my talk with the teacher, I believe at least 20 to 25% of the children are suffering of our GCSD children are suffering. So what is the board doing to make sure that these kids can come back full time? And what is the projected date, when and date and time, just so that you give us parents planning, right? If you're not going to be back in September, we need to know about it now. Can we get back in April? A lot of districts have already opened full time. Why are we not there yet? We all pay a lot of taxes, and I feel that the board is failing our children. Very short-sighted fixes. We need to work on fixes that will allow us to thrive long-term, allow the children to be able to have continuity long-term. 3, has the board looked at the recent Westchester Magazine ranking of the high schools? And have you seen what Woodlands is ranking at? And number 4, I ask this every single meeting, any update on the strategic plan, 3, 5, and 10 years? Oh, good. Made it to 2 minutes exactly.
Antoinette, you're muted.
Sorry, thank you, Amy. The projected time in regards to that's a question for administration to respond to in regards to returning, when that happens, how it happens.
You mean administration who? Who should I ask? Because last check, you guys say that you have the power and you guys dictate. So, okay, then if you're saying administration, so who should I ask? That would be great.
Let me say, Amy, hold on for a second. Let me say this. when you say they, I've never said that. So that's one. Two, when we talk about who is developing the reopening plans in schools all across the whole country, administration does that. I work in a school, but not in Greenberg.
Wonderful. But
And
who
so
are
so I'm
administration?
saying, I'm sorry, Amy, hold on. So what I'm saying to you is, board members, we're not in the school buildings, and everyone knows that. We're not developing.
I can't
Antoinette,
hear
you're, Antoinette, you're muted.
We may be approving those plans, but we do not create and develop the actual reopening plan. So
So the
that's not a
question
question
is,
that I
who
can
in the
answer for you.
administration should I speak to?
Your second question about returning to 4 minutes, the board, we have not discussed it as a whole and made a decision on that. And Amy, you had third question. The strategic plan, this will be probably my fourth or fifth time responding to this, depending on which meeting that it came up in, is that the strategic plan will be developed. Again, we said that we, as a board, that we would support having a consultant come in like they did before, having a meeting that is inclusive of our community members, and we develop that together. I believe that will be done at a retreat. I do not know the when and the where. Usually governance committee does make a recommendation in regards to timing, and also in regards to some items that will be on that agenda. Thank
So
you.
Okay, the next
hold on.
speaker is
Excuse me, I
Kiana
had my hand up. I
Washington.
had my hand up.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
I can't see if your hand is up.
That's okay. That's okay. That's all right.
Barry?
This point, Amy just made a point that I just wanted her to elaborate on. She said something about Westchester Magazine, but what is it in Westchester Magazine that you're talking about, Amy?
We're moving on to the next person, but Westchester Magazine, they usually do a yearly ranking of all schools in Westchester. And so it's usually like an open page, and it talks about taxes, it talks about the spending per pupil. They use a whole bunch of data points, SAT scores, all of those things to rank all the high schools in Westchester.
And what was our ranking? And
I
did
don't
we
know
move
what
up
our
or did we
ranking-
go down?
I don't know what our ranking is, but it also is online too. Dr. Chase?
Dr. Chase has a hand up.
Of course, I know the ranking because I'm proud of Woodlands Middle High School. And Amy, you stole my thunder for my superintendent's report by bringing it up. But Woodlands Middle High School went from 37 to 26 as a ranking. So we could not be more proud of our high school and everyone who was involved in elevating our high school. So thank you, Mr. Williams and Miss Amy Wang, for stealing my thunder for the rest of my report. But I think we're all just so proud of our high school for this ranking.
Yep.
Thank you, Dr. Chase, and thank you, Matt Smith.
I'm sorry, Dr. Chase,
Thank
seen-
you.
I seen-
I'm sorry, Tanya. Thank you to Dr. Chase and everyone who puts all of their heart into educating our students. Tanya?
I just wanted to say that we have indeed risen in the ranking, but I'm just looking at the actual report. It says 33. I don't want to split hairs, but anyway. I actually
33
have it
was
up.
last year. 33 was last year's ranking. Year is 26.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought I was looking at the one from this year. That's even better. Thank you.
Of course. Go Woodlands Middle High School.
Tracy?
Yes, I'm here. I'm sorry. So the next speaker is Kiana Washington. I will let her in the room now.
Okay, Ms. Washington, you see you're in here, just like I reminded the other participants in public comments, we do not discuss personnel matters.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Board President, I think the community needs to understand that the authority of bringing students to school or keeping student remote basically is in the local superintendent's hands. That was a statement Governor Cuomo made. The local superintendent has all power with bringing all of our students back. They have all power with keeping all of our students remote. Governor Cuomo made that statement. So everyone's talking to the board, but the board is the governing body. The superintendent executes whether our students go back to school. Number two, I was very disappointed with Dr. O'Hara not coming to Greenberg. So I'm asking the Board of Education, can you please call him, find out why, what happened, what made him rescind from coming to Greenberg Central School District. Number three, I want to thank the Board of Education for all of your work, your volunteering. You are just regular old community members trying to work together with administration to make sure our students have the best education in Greenberg. Change is not easy, so please just stay strong. Things will get better and we can always work together. People are frustrated and it's okay. It's a really bad season. But please remember, the superintendent has all power in bringing back our students. So it's not the trustees of the community. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Washington.
Okay, the next speaker on our list is.
I'm sorry, Tracy, excuse me. I just would like to offer clarity as to what the role of the superintendent is. And oftentimes people who've never been in the role don't understand the role. Although the superintendent does make the recommendation, the superintendent works with a Board of Education. So I don't want anyone to think that the superintendent is all empowered. That is an erroneous estimation of the role of the superintendent. And so those who are watching, I just don't want them to walk away with erroneous information. The board knows that the current superintendent has worked very diligently in opening schools and have devised the reopening plans. And we are in the process of expanding our 4 days to 5 days. And so we're not sitting around twiddling our thumbs. But at the end of the day, we do have infrastructure issues that need to be dealt with in order to bring all the kids back. And I believe the board will be making a presentation, at least one of the committees of the board will be making a presentation later on. So although the governor, and he makes a lot of comments, although the governor may have said that it is in the role of the superintendent, I believe his comment was it's the role of the local school districts. And the local school districts mean the superintendent and the board works together. So I just want to make sure that the community is aware of that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Chase. I believe a combination of what you said and I said is we're aligned in that. Person, Tracy?
I'm sorry, I didn't realize I was muted. Okay, the next person on our list is Lorraine Cantori. Antoinette, I think Miss Cantori's in the room.
Yeah, it's connecting. Okay, wait a minute. Oh, yeah, it's still connecting the audio. Yeah, Miss Cantori, looks like it's still connecting.
If we're hung, then we could put her on the phone.
Yeah, I would say Miss Cantori, if you can hear me, maybe you might want to try to either call or maybe you want to log back out and then come back in. Laser, she was able to do that without being trapped outside, right? She can log out and then log back in.
Yeah. I don't know if she can hear us though. Maybe someone in the chat.
Yeah, if someone in the chat or someone who knows Miss Cantori might have her number, I'm not sure. But if she could possibly log back out and try to come back in.
Can I put her in the waiting room and then, or is that gonna block her? Because I can go to the next person.
No, that'll be fine. You can put it in the waiting room, but
Yeah.
Okay. Put in waiting
Wait,
room.
something oh, it looked like something was happening, but go ahead. She'll probably try again.
Sorry. So next is Raza Shinaj.
Okay. Let's see. All right, Miss Shanaz, can you hear us? If you can, you're mute. Okay, I see you unmuting now. Miss Sinaj?
Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Raza Sinanaj, and I'm a resident in the Greenberg School District. I'm guessing everyone can hear me. I had a question around data, and because data is my passion. Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead. We can hear you.
Okay, so I had a question.
She cut back out.
I can't hear her.
Did it drop?
Or she's frozen.
No, I think there's a delay.
Okay, do you want me to put her in the waiting room while they figure it out?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, I don't know what was going on there. So again, I apologize for this. You have to love technology. So my question is around data. I have been doing, I'm a new resident to Greenberg about 3 years now, and I've been looking at the data for your school district. And I happen to be on the meeting on February 9th where, one of the residents or someone asked around the question around iReady data, and the school community, whoever's in charge, I'm guessing, the administrative team has the iReady data, and we were wondering if the results were shared or how we can go about, knowing how the students fared on that iReady assessment, especially since students have been working remotely for almost a year. And I know we are at the point where we're supposed to have a mid-year assessment of iReady data. So I was wondering, has that assessment been administered as of yet? And if it has, when will the data be shared with parents? When will the data be shared with the school community so we can see the progress that the students have made thus far? And if not, what can we do about supporting the students? I know that everyone's been working from home and students haven't been for in-person learning, but we still have to think about instruction that's happening remotely. I'm an educator for over 28 years. I work in the public school system, and we've been making it work. So I'm concerned as to what is happening in the Greenberg School District around students' academic achievement. And I had another wondering, based off the last comment of the high school rankings, I asked in the chat, what year was the ranking for? Because it's very difficult to really view those rankings as accurate when we've been remote for over a year and most of the passing grades haven't really been accurate. Thank you for the time.
Thank you.
Okay, great. I'm sorry. The next person is Jessica Muldoon. Let me just let her in right now. And I'm going to put...
Is anybody going to say anything about the answer to the questions?
Oh, sorry. I don't know. Sometimes.
No.
Okay.
So, Dr. Chase?
Yes. So, Ms. Raza, hi. Thank you for your question. The iReady assessment, we actually administered the assessment at the beginning of the year, and we just administered the mid-year assessment. We will be sharing that data with the school board, and we'll be making a mid-year assessment presentation to the community. So I do ask that you anticipate that. In reference to the new Westchester Magazine data, you're right. The data is usually 2 to 3 years before, which really speaks a lot to Woodlands Middle High School and the trajectory that it's on. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's 1920 data, but I just have to make sure that that's accurate. Or is it 1819? I'm not really sure, but it's definitely 2 to 3 years before. You also mentioned that sometimes the data isn't accurate. I do want to share with you that there are different steps that we have to go through in terms of the state certifying the data to ensure that it is accurate. So any data that we've presented has been accurate. So I don't want that misunderstanding to go out into the universe, but I thank you for your questions. Dr. Reynolds, have I missed anything?
Sorry, through the superintendent and through the chair, thank you very much, Dr. Chase. No, you've pretty much covered it. We are in the final stages of administering our mid-year assessments in iReady. We're actually in the makeup sessions as we speak over the next few days. We anticipate collating that information and having some comparisons, both in comparing our students from mid-year this year to mid-year last year performance, along with mid-year to beginning of the year this year. One point of clarification, all of our students have the opportunity to be in person. We have about 58%, if my information is correct, of our students and families who have chosen to be in person. So not all of our students are receiving instruction remotely. But again, we are in the hybrid model, so every student does receive some instruction on a remote basis.
Dr. Reynolds, I just had a quick question actually about that. Are the state assessments that our students take, are they graded in-house or do they go out for grading?
State assessments, are you referring to regions or are you referring to the 3 through 8 tests?
I guess I'm referring to the region, to both.
So it's a mixture of both. Our state assessments are usually sent to our BOCES consortium where they're scored there. We do have teachers who are trained to be scorers, and we do what's called consortium scoring in some instances, where some of our teachers may go and be part of the scoring team, but they will not score any of our tests. They may score tests from another district and vice versa.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Tracy?
Right now, my son's on the hybrid, so he's going in, I guess, and get the iReady testing. And is there any result? Are you guys going to give us any information about the results for students who went in and did testing versus students that did their testing from home?
So we plan to, and I don't want to speak about any one particular child, but for all students, the board will receive the data for both scenarios you described.
Okay, great, thank you. And if so we're doing the second round now. If you guys do put everyone back into school, I know we're doing the 5 first, but if we do everyone back, will you then, okay, if you put everyone back, some of the students are still going to remain at home, right? Their families have the right to keep them at home.
Their parents will have the right to keep them at home. It is still their option.
Okay, so when you tell us we can all go back, are we also going to get the data separated that way? Or is it still going to be just the one group of data? Even though it's all back, some people are still going to be at home.
So from now until the end of June, we will continue to give the board data for all students, regardless of which platform they're working from.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Antoinette, should I put Raza back into the waiting room?
No, I think to finish the question. Thank you, Miss Sinanaj. I hope I said that properly.
Yes, you did. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for your questions.
Thank you.
All right.
And I already let Jessica Muldoon in.
Someone gave me Miss Cantori's number, so I'm gonna try to call her and see if I can get the question through her. But let's move forward. Thank you. Ms. Muldoon, you can move forward. Just, make sure that we do not discuss personnel items during public comments. But thank you for being here and your patience.
Thank you for having me here tonight. I don't want to repeat anything that's been said already, so I'm just going to build on. So I appreciate receiving the letter last night about the transition to 5 days a week. Even that 1 day of an additional in-person time will be greatly appreciated. I just ask that there continue to be communication on the reopening, and even if there are constraints that prevent our district from opening in the same ways that surrounding districts are, I think more information will be helpful, so we're not wondering what ifs, what might not be shared. I also say I got the form last week about whether we're returning next year, and I can't fill this form out, and I'm sure other families feel the same way, until I know the plan for September. So as soon as we can get that information, either tonight or soon, or what the plans might be, that will help for all of us to be able to make decisions. Parents who've had the opportunity to work from home are being called back to the office. So reworking plans is the name of the game for the last year, but we need information. This might be something that Ms. Raymond might be able to answer. Greenberg Central School District's getting about $4.5 million from the American Rescue Plan. Is this more or less than we were expecting to get? And are there any plans in place yet about how those funds might be used? And then my third question is is there any information about whether the district will allow Camp Kidco to be held at Leaf Jackson this year? I get different information about whether it's a county decision, a town decision, or a school decision. So I just was wondering if you had any information on your plans to go forward with that. So that is everything I have tonight. Thank you.
Yeah, I can hear you. All right, tell me when.
And okay. Is anyone gonna
Answer?
We are aware of the money that has been advertised or that has been released for all of the school districts in Westchester on what we are to expect. We are still waiting for the final findings to come down, what that money can exactly be spent on. So we are aware of it. We are in talks on plans that we may have, but we're just waiting to find out what exactly we can use that money for.
Thank you. Ms. Raymond. I just got the 4.5 million. I think I heard the question of, is it more or less, or is that the right amount?
That is the amount that has been, it's been projected between 4 million and 4.5. I believe it will come out once the state budget is passed, and it'll be on our run again like it was this year.
Okay, thank you. And how will the funds be used? And something about Camp Kidco being at Leaf Jackson, I don't.
To clarify what Ms. Mulder is asking, to clarify what she's asking about the camp, if you send your kid to camp and you got a little notice that said that camp is dependent upon the school district allowing them to use the building.
Oh, okay. I don't know, Dr. Chase, is there anything on that?
So Ms. Muldoon, I won't be able to speak on that right now because the building use form has not arrived at our offices yet. But when it does, we're going to have to take a look at what is being recommended by the Department of Health. We are guided by the Department of Health guidelines. And there are so many things that we want to do that we just can't do. I'm not bending the rules because I'm not definitely going to put kids in jeopardy. I know you don't want me to do that neither. And, you know, we've done a great job so far keeping everyone safe, right? Even though sometimes the decisions are not popular, but we'll continue to look into that. And I'm sure that once decisions are made, you'll hear more about the camp. All right. Sorry, I can't give you more about that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chase. Okay, did I miss anything? Nope. Thank you, Ms. Muldoon.
Okay, the next speaker. Oh,
Tracy,
huh?
hold on, please. I have Ms. Cantori here, so I'm just going to unmute her. If it's feedback, then I'll just get on the phone myself and hear it, and then and share whatever her question is.
Antoinette, you're muted.
All right, go ahead.
I don't hear anything.
Okay, Miss Cantori, hold on. They said that they can't hear anything, so I am going to ask you to say it to me so I can ask. Okay, so go ahead. Okay, so hold on. One question was, is there a timeline and a plan for full reopening? Go ahead. Okay, so hold on. Ms. Cantori was sharing in regards to how data for students achievement and graduation rates and all those things that actually came from, I believe she said, the governor, and that what happened was students who were, even if you were, did you say absent, like not attending school during COVID? So she's saying that kids who were from the time school closed all the way to the end of the year, that if they were not in school or they were virtually, pretty much students received 65s, which is why the state itself could be able to tout, you know, a great increase in graduation rates. Okay. She wanted to say the point is that because that data was developed in that way, that it's essentially skewed because of how students receive their grades. Okay, what else? Okay. All right, the Miss Cantor's last thing, she said that she wants the board to stop being blamed, that it's up to administration to open the schools. And that was. Oh, by the way, okay. Yes. Okay. Thank you, Miss Cantori. You too. Bye. Her last thing was is that someone, I don't know what the someone means, that there may be a shortage of um, mask, gloves, and hand sanitizers, so that if we could just make sure that we have all of the supplies that we need when everyone returns. Tracy.
Sorry, I was writing that down, that supplies, to make sure to remember to ask about that. I'm gonna let in Miss Rita Jones is next, the next speaker.
Do we want to say anything about a timeline for full reopening?
Yeah. Well, also about, I was curious about the point she made about everyone getting passing grades, and even if they're not present, is that?
Oh, I'm sorry. I let, Miss Jones, we still on the prior speaker, sorry.
Miss Jones, hold on for 1 second. So
I guess I'm asking, what was the grading policy for this year?
I think schools all over had different things, but yeah, go ahead. Dr. Reynolds, I see your hand is up. Dr. Chase, of course, you as well.
I will acquiesce to Dr. Chase, but unless you would like for me to begin.
If you don't state what I'm about to say, then I'll just go in after you, but I think we're probably going to be on the same page anyway.
Yeah, sounds good. Through the superintendent and the chair, thank you very much for those questions and those comments. We should be cognizant that the state, from the onset of COVID on March 15th of 2020 through the end of the school year, June 30th of 2020, had what they called a do no harm policy in terms of grading for students. That was the recommendation to all school districts. But at the same time, because we did not have state assessments nor regents, the graduation requirements for New York State across the entire state were relaxed for all students. So we do not have a skewing of data as it relates to graduation rates, because there will be, unfortunately, an asterisk next to our grading for last year and graduation requirements across the state. As it applies this year, we are employing full grading policy for our secondary students. And as we know, the Board of Regents is currently seeking a review of a second waiver for New York State graduation requirements and regents. As a matter of fact, it was just released this week, and it will be a part, I'm sure, of Dr. Chase's update coming up, that the board is seeking for grades 3 through 8 tests to only administer the first day of the test so that we have some benchmark information, but it will not be the full assessment. As it relates to regents, the Board of Regents is also recommending the relaxation of the August regents and only administering the 4 regents that are required by federal law for one of each of the major core curricular areas: math, science, social studies, and ELA. We will not be utilizing that data as it relates to graduation rates or requirements, but the information will be utilized towards student performance on a federal level as it equates to funding. So we anticipate that this year as well will be an asterisk year. If the comment was made in connection with the Westchester Magazine ranking, again, those years are prior to COVID that the ranking is based upon. So those years are accurate data as released by New York State across the state.
Thank you, Dr. Reynolds. Dr. Chase?
actually the last portion, Dr. Reynolds, of your comment is what I was going to add, is that we're looking at data from 2 years ago, pre-COVID data. It is accurate, and it is an accurate reflection of the beautiful students of Woodlands Middle High School and all who were involved in elevating the school district to where it is. I do have my own personal comments about grades 3 through 8 assessments that will be administered in the spring, but I'm going to reserve them for a later time. I will say to parents, just so that they know, the superintendent's group in which I belong, several other organizations that I belong, we have definitely voiced our concerns about the administration of assessments during the pandemic. We know that many of our children are faced with so many challenges, and even the thought of an assessment, no matter how it's going to be used, it's very troubling to many of us, not all of us, but to many of us. We understand that assessments are important because it helps us to gauge where children are and then what areas we need to work. But right now, a 3 through 8 assessment during the spring may not be placed in the best way in helping our children to transition back to school. But again, that's for another day and for another time. But thank you, Dr. Reynolds.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Reynolds. Dr. Chase, Tracy, who's next? Miss Rita Jones.
She's already in the room.
Yeah, there is some feedback, I think. Okay, are you ready?
We're ready, Miss Jones. Just as a reminder.
I don't know. Yeah, there's some background voice.
I'm not sure what. I just wanted to give a reminder that again, we don't, allow comments on personnel during public comments.
You mean calling people's names? I'm gonna talk in general.
Can you still hear us, Ms. Jones?
I hear your feedback. Your voice is coming out again, Antoinette. You're saying the same thing over and again. Maybe you're too close. Okay, I'm gonna start and I guess I just repeated myself too. Okay. The role of the Board of Education, as you all know, is to supervise the superintendent. Oh, can you hear me? Because there's a feedback. My voice, it keeps.
Miss Jones, do you have your computer on at the same time?
I'm on the computer.
So the computer has a little bit of a lag delay. So you're probably hearing yourself a couple of minutes later or a couple of seconds later.
Ms. Jones, we're not hearing any feedback when you speak or when anyone else speaks.
Yeah.
Right.
You sound good to us.
We hear you.
You can hear me? Okay, let me continue because you came out very late and I think I messed up what I was going to say, but I have a few points to make. Good, David. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna, Ivy, you can start timing me now. The role of the Board of Education, as you all know, is to supervise the superintendent and all other systems in our district. Recently, the board hired a firm in a search for a new superintendent. We learned recently, after accepting the position, he then declined due to intimidation and ridiculous flyers that I have seen being circulated. Okay, according to what I understand, 30% of the members on the board did not support him. In fact, the exact percentage is 28.5%. For a candidate, that is not feasible. A new superintendent would not want to perform the duties that is required and expected of them under such hostile conditions emanating from any board member. Something must be done so that anyone who applies for this position in the future will not be met and confronted by obstructionists on the board. Going forward, parents and community members need to know, how will you fill the void that we now have with an educationally sound plan? which normally comes from a superintendent. For example, directives usually are given by the superintendent to principals. They pass it on to staff, and therefore our kids have a plan for their education. This void has to be filled, and soon, if the district intends to educate the children. I need an answer from you if you have an educationally sound plan to continue on. COVID or not, I mean, the kids need to be educated. And I've been around, I know my time is almost up, but I've been around since Dr. Friedel, and I've never seen anything like this where somebody is selected and they're intimidated not to come on board. It's ridiculous.
Ms. Jones.
That's it. Can I wait around for my answers, or when do you give answers?
There's some things
Yeah, Ms. Jones. Yeah, what are you saying?
all right, so Ms. Jones, you said a lot. So one I will say is you said a lot, Ms. Jones. As far as I can say that the board is going to and has tried and is dedicated to going through the search process in a professional and respectful manner, and we're going to keep pushing to do that. As far as anything else that you mentioned in regards to flyers and things like that, the board also put out a statement. We made it very clear how we felt about the usage of the district's logo, and also the information that was put out there as well. So the board will continue to try our best to stay focused on completing the tasks that we have, and to protect the district in any way if someone is misusing this image, just in any way, shape, or form.
Tracy has her hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry, Tracy.
I just wanted to say it's nice to see you, Miss Jones. And thank you for the volunteer work you have done in our schools over the years. So I just really appreciate that. And I know you're not a parent now, even though you were before. So I do want to let you know that recently our superintendent did put out a survey to parents, so that I think we got that the other day, to fill out about returning to school. Right now we have a 4-day instructional week. And so she put out a survey about returning to school with using a 5th day. So parents are filling that out. I believe that's due, I'd have to look at the survey. I did it right away, but I believe it's due in a couple of days, and then it's gonna close. And I'm sure the superintendent will talk about that and give an update. So I think we are trying to move more toward opening the schools. I do, I'm waiting for the presentation part so I can ask about opening full school, not just hybrid, but I think everyone's kind of asking that. So I'm sure, again, that the superintendent will answer, some of that for us as well. And we're going to talk about facilities as well, which also is a part of the equation.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Jones.
Okay.
Okay, the next person on our list, I'm sorry. I know you tell me I'm going too fast sometimes. The next person on our list is Jamal Thomas, and I'm letting him in right now.
Hello, Mr. Thomas.
Hello, how's everybody tonight?
We're good. How are you? Thank
Wonderfully
you
well, wonderfully well.
for patiently waiting. Just a reminder.
Hello,
Oh, the clock comes up. Just
Oh.
a reminder, we do not discuss personnel matters during public comment.
Thank you.
No problem.
So I appreciate you guys letting me address the board, and I guess I'll start with congratulations on our improvement in the rankings. It means that there are some things going right in the district. So I think some of the frustration in the community start with something as simple as why the community didn't start this meeting tonight. It seems like a microcosm of a macro issue to have us kind of wait for an hour and still be here at at 10 o'clock. So I'm listening to this discussion, and it's saddening because so much stuff is about adults and grown people, and so little is about the kids of our district. And it does seem as if a lot of the things that the board is doing, it's getting in the way of our ability to best serve our kids. The last time I spoke at one of these meetings, I did ask about the strategic plan. I noticed somebody else in the community did speak to that earlier. That seems like something that is very, very, very foundational in addressing the requirements of our kids. And if we're making decisions, personnel or other, that prevent us from understanding where we are with the previous strategic plan, as well as where we're going with the new strategic plan, that's something that everybody that's on the board has to look in the mirror and ask themselves if this is right, and if it's the right time to be doing many of the things that that the board is trying to accomplish. So I hope that the board understands that the skepticism of the community, it comes from someplace. It's not just like people being mad at any one decision. So I know time is wrapping up. I really do hope that we focus more of our attention on what's going to make these babies grow up and be the best version of themselves. And obviously that's my time.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. That is all of our focus. Thank you so much for your comments. Again, the strategic plan, I said it the last meeting, I said it this meeting again. That's where we're at with that. And I think that's all I have to say. Thank you for joining us and being at our meetings and posing your questions and your concerns.
Thank you for having me.
The next speaker is Ruth Mitchell, but I don't know, Ivy, if because she's not there, so I don't know if she decided not to speak or anything. Did she let you know? No?
No, I provided her the information.
Okay. Then our next speaker is Tom Bach, and then I see he may not be able to speak. Okay, we're going to skip that one because he's not there either. And then our next speaker is Roy Fenetral. I'm going to let him in right now.
Okay, Mr. Fenetral, can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Okay, welcome. It's good to see you today or tonight. Just a reminder, yeah, tonight, just a reminder.
Don't worry, it'll still be morning.
Oh my gosh. Just a reminder, we don't discuss personnel matters in public comments, but you have the floor. Thank you.
So the pandemic taught us many lessons about what if. What if our kids can't learn in the classroom? What if plans we had for the school year change? What if we had plans and circumstances change? Do we change our plans? Many of us parents and community members have been urging you to change for all the children of our district. We asked for transparency. We got none. Instead, you give us legalese about personnel. I want to follow up on a few things that Mr. Thomas said about focusing on our children. I have a few questions. If you could please answer these questions. We asked you not to change leadership during a pandemic and put the sole focus on getting kids back to class. Yet you use your official board channels only to discuss superintendent searches and board squabbles. Can you instead use your channels to broadcast good academic news about our schools? Before making any decisions, please share all possibilities with parents and the public. We don't need to know your deliberations. In fact, a lot of us want to stay away from your deliberations. But can you promise to share with the public that you are deciding these things? We are concerned parents and community members. Do you agree that districts run best when leadership includes the community in decision-making before the decisions are made. We cannot change the past, that we didn't even know you were looking to replace our superintendent during a pandemic, and that you wouldn't even entertain the idea of continuity until we're past the pandemic. But we and you can change the future. We can choose a better path. Can you promise us tonight that you will put all of your attention on getting kids back to school and being transparent with the public until that begins, and stop charging us more legal fees so you guys can fight egos with each other? Finally, one last question. You decided to change leadership before we had a plan to return our children to school. But you can
We're
fix that.
still discussing personnel items.
You
So
can
if
fix that
be
decision.
mindful of
Are
that.
you willing to now act in the best interest of our children? I asked several questions today. None of that had to do with personnel. This is all your board decision.
What you are saying, what you said was, so please, I want you to continue. I just ask you to please, be mindful of what was stated. That's all.
I specifically said I do not want to be involved in your personnel decision making. And I asked specific questions. If you guys could promise to put the focus on kids. Are you saying you're unwilling to put the focus on kids and you want to deal with personnel instead?
So I'm gonna say this, and I've had this conversation with a few different people, and I'll speak for myself. Every decision that I make is about children and staff in this district. Every decision that I make. And when we say, just to give you an example, when we say that there is no transparency, I remember when I was a younger parent in the district, and there was a search for a new superintendent. The community actually was not involved in that at all. But this process, we've tried our best to actually make it more open to the community. The community groups met with the different staff members from the search firm.
Yeah, I mean, with all due respect, that was all after the decision was made.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, hold for a second. And then after that, we also, there was also an opportunity to get questions that the community would like to be answered. There was a community forum. I don't think I've seen that before, where candidates actually had their profiles posted on the district. There was a live YouTube event that they participated in. And then after that, there was a impression survey that the board did take that into consideration in their deliberations. And I won't say at all that we've got everything perfect, because we're not, and no one else is perfect. But what I can say is that as far as this search process, we did our best to be inclusive of the community, especially during a time when we're mainly on a screen. But I do appreciate your thoughts and your comments. For me, and I think for the board in general, we are focused on doing what's right and what's best for kids. My son is a graduate of this school district, and I am proud that he is a graduate of this school district. This is the place where, when we moved from the Bronx, that embraced us, and we embraced it, and he's had a wonderful childhood because of this community. So I take it to heart when people try to say that, I'm going to say for me, that I'm not about kids and questioning that. I want the experience that my son had here as well. So I thank you for your question.
100%. This is a great community that has improved more over the last 5 years than any community I've ever been in. My point isn't the search. My point is, you did not inform us there was even going to be a search, and you decided to search for a superintendent.
And I hear you. And my point is too, and we've said this before, that we followed the proper procedures, the law, and the process. Just because there is some chatter out there that's being pushed that's incorrect doesn't mean that is right. But
I have no idea what chatter you're talking about. I'm just saying you decided.
We followed
decided to change superintendents.
Every proper procedure and law that we were supposed to. So thank you, Mr. Fenetral. I appreciate your time with us.
My questions are not going to get answered. I'll try again next.
Terry.
So I just want to say that I thought Roy's comments did not verge on to personnel. Like many other people, he talked about the position. Some people who were allowed to go on a little bit longer. Excuse me, may I finish? You may disagree with me, but please allow me to finish. And I will certainly listen to your disagreement with me.
You always are allowed to, so please go ahead. Thank you.
But please don't interrupt. I feel that that Roy was the victim of a double standard there because he did not talk about personnel. He talked at a high level like many people did. But per another comment that was made, you know, I've been here for a few superintendent searches, and each time I think we've used a different search firm, and different search firms bring different methods to doing the search that the board agrees to. But in every instance that we've done it, there has always been a component where the public meets the candidate. Sometimes it happens, as in this time, before the candidate is chosen, which is good. It's a different thing. Sometimes it happens afterwards, which is how it happened certainly with the one in which Ron Ross was selected. And prior to that, with Ron Smalls as well. Point that I'm making is there has always been transparency with our searches or with the candidates at a certain point. Obviously, the board, the public can't know too soon because you put the candidates at risk for doing that. But there's always been transparency, and it is often driven by the process that the search firm employs.
Thank you, Terry.
Thank you.
Tracy.
Are we going to move on to the?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
So wait, Tracy, are we finished?
I'm sorry, that was the last speaker. So I'm just anxious about the reopening schools conversation.
All right, thank you.
I see Ivy's hand though.
Ivy?
You have one more speaker, Ms. Davis. She should be using her phone.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. You're absolutely right. And she's gonna kill me. I'm sorry, I'm letting her in right now.
Are you ready for me?
I'm sorry, Pam, you're in, Antoinette.
Pam, can you hear us clearly?
Yes.
Okay, you're up. Thank you for being with us. Please make sure you stray away from any personnel comments.
That's fine. Am I up now?
Yes, you are. We're ready.
Oh, okay. I'm speaking right now?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Good evening. I do have a couple of questions to ask here. Last July, we originally had a task force, the district-wide task force that was put together, and it seems like it was just done for one-time planning, whereas I thought that we were going to be able to work together as community, parents, teachers, to follow through with the COVID programming and things that were happening throughout the year. So I just want to know, that's number one, are we going to continue this? Because based on what our children come into in April is going to kind of set the tone for what we're going to look like for fall 2021. The other thing is I would like to find out when we're going to actually hear some evaluations of our curriculum programs, the OUT program, the IB, the world languages, even for middle and for high school, because I have seen the scheduling for various high schools and middle schools around our area. And then the last part is that I'm hoping that a lot of questions that are being asked that we'll hear from BBS tonight, and we'll be able to hear some of the answers to our buildings and the ability for our students to come back in based on that, plus the superintendent's report. So hopefully that will happen. And I do understand that there are private issues regarding the superintendent search and everything, but we just really need to come together, and it really can't be about an individual personal issue. It really is about our students. So thank you. That's all I have to say this evening.
Thank you, Pam. We appreciate your questions. So as I don't know about the task force, I'm going to assume that it'll happen again. That's for Dr. Chase or Dr. Reynolds to speak to that. And in regards to when will we get evaluations for programs?
Yeah.
Does administration want to take on either of those questions?
So depending on the conversation tonight and decisions that the board will make regarding opening school and the infrastructure, we can definitely reconvene those task force. And Pam, you are 100% right. We were rocking and rolling during the summer, planning opening school. We got almost 70 members of the community to come together to plan on how we're going to reopen school, and it was done seamlessly. We had community leaders, parents, healthcare providers, there were a couple of board members, and we had members from every union represented in this district. That's what working together looks like. That's what working together feels like and sounds like. Once we listen to the presentation tonight, and I have all confidence that Trustee Warner will at least give some guidelines in terms of, or a foundation from which to work based on the presentation from his committee, the reopening committee can reconvene to talk about what those reopening plans could look like from now through June 30th. What the plans might look like in September may be a different, it might be a different idea, and it might be a different scenario. I don't want to make a plan for a new superintendent, but I can give a recommendation. And I think that's the respectful and the classy thing to do. And that's how I wish to maintain my recommendations. So it would be great to reconvene. And again, after today's conversation with BBS and listening to the committee, I am sure that, you know, we can spend time together. I'm sure that committee is dying to get together again just to talk about reopening safely and responsibly. But for right now, Ms. Pam, you know, we are going to continue to follow the guidelines. I heard someone earlier mention the CDC has made a recommendation for 3 feet. They haven't made it yet. They're talking about it and discussing it. And I do know that some people have already made that provision. We're not ready to do that yet in Greenberg. I want to make sure we follow the rules and cross the T's and dot the I's. What we have done, which some of you may not know, in preparation, we are already exploring desk barriers for when the CDC does make that decision, because more than likely they will. But you'll need desk barriers for an extra layer of protection. That's something Mr. Falcone is already exploring, and I'm very proud of that work. Again, in preparation for reopening school, the district already helped teachers to get appointments to get vaccinations. Last Thursday and Friday, we sent a bunch of teachers to Westchester County Center, to Westchester Community College, as well as to an area in White Plains to receive vaccinations. Thanks to a wonderful parent at Bailey Elementary School, whom I've been working with, we're looking and exploring a possibility, and I don't want to say for sure, but a possibility of getting more teachers vaccinated simply by creating a vaccination site here on our campus just for Greenberg. And so I'm hoping that Walgreens will work with us in that fashion. And that's another layer of getting people prepared for a full reopening. So we have been doing some work behind the scenes, some administrative work, if you will, in getting people ready for a full opening. But it will take a task force to come together to talk about what's in the best interest of children. Thank you, Pam.
Okay. So then basically what we're waiting to hear for, that people are asking questions about, they're not getting answers to, is because we're waiting to hear BBS's report on the facilities. We're waiting to hear the rest of your report, and we're just waiting to hear what is happening. So am I correct in that?
Right. So I don't want to say that we're waiting for BBS. I think we're just waiting to have the conversation Once BBS
Okay.
reports, yeah, and we're waiting to have the conversation as to what is in the best interest. How do we move forward? What these expenses are. And let me just be clear, and I don't know if this has been made clear, and I know people said they've heard rumors. ECP main building is occupying Highview. If we were to bring all of the children back, we won't have room to house the children of Highview. So we've got to solve, right. So we've got to solve, what do you do with the children who are in ECP occupying that space when you bring all the children back? And that's going to be the conversation today, hopefully, at least to begin planning on what we're going to do with ECP. Because right now we don't have the capacity with the regulations that have been given to us by the Department of Health. We don't have the capacity and the space to bring all of our children back. But what we did do through the survey is that we've asked parents, how do you feel about moving from 4 days per week to 5 days while remaining our hybrid? And so far, it looks like the feedback is overwhelming, with parents saying, yeah, let's move to 5 days. And that's the idea. Let's start phasing children in slowly but surely to elongate the time that they are here at school for in-person instruction. And like many other districts, you really have to have a phase-in process. That's the goal. Yeah, absolutely. That's the goal. And again, those conversations can be had. Let's hear what happens today. Let's hear what happens with BBS. Let's have this open dialogue with the board and administration about what we can and cannot do. And let's come up with solutions together as to how we can begin planning for reopening, at least for this school year, if that's feasible.
Very good. That's what we're waiting to hear. So I'm concerned that I'm hearing a lot of things, and I think people need to hear what needs to be presented so that everybody can hear and make the right decision for our students overall.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I had.
Hold on for a second, Tracy. There's like 3 statements that should have been read.
Oh, okay, yes. So I didn't know if Ivy was going to read that, but I had 2 questions for the superintendent.
Could we hold on for 1 second, because if 3 people are expecting their comments to be read and then they don't hear, they're also just waiting.
Okay, no problem.
Get that out the way.
Okay.
Ms. Dawn and Centrana, I just have a quick question. Is that our normal practice when people are not here, that we read questions? Because I know in the past that people have sent questions and we didn't read them. Uh-oh, I think you're muted.
I'm sorry, I'm unmuted. Are you saying pre-COVID during this time?
Yes. I just want to make sure that that's consistent. That's something that we're going to do. If we're going to ask questions of people who are not here, because people have done that in the past. Okay, no problem.
I mean, unless I'm wrong, Ivy, they were questions, or I thought they were just statements.
There were questions. One person did submit statements and a question.
So is it number 1, number 4, and number 13? Those are the 3, right? Okay, I see Ivy shaking her head.
Antoinette?
Tracy, hold on, Terry. Tracy, do me a favor. Could you ask your question anyway?
Oh, I just had 2 questions. I heard the superintendent said, depending on what decisions we make tonight, I know ECP, which you also mentioned, was one of the issues. Are there other issues that you wanted the board to approve other than ECP that affects reopening? That was my one question. And then the second one was, I know you talked about phasing in children to 5 days. Have you guys considered phasing in maybe Leaf Jackson? I know Highview and ECP have that space issue right now, which we do need to work on. I think tonight we'll make that decision, but what about phasing in Leaf Jackson and then, going up the ladder? I know that's an option, maybe bringing back elementary kids and then later older kids. That is also looked at as a phase-in. So those are my 2 questions.
So all options are on the table, but let me just explain to the board how I wish to operate before any plans are made for this school year. I wish to engage the community in those plans. I wish to have those community meetings where people are planning with me and alongside, and then I will make a recommendation based on those discussions. But all options are on the table. However, I'd like to hear tonight what the possibilities could be moving forward.
Antoinette, I had my hand up for a while. I would just, before we move on.
You're muted.
Antoinette, you're muted.
I'm sorry, Tanya. I'm gonna let you go, Tanya. I will say this. Can't remember who said. I think it's Dr. Chase and Ivy also confirmed, yes, that in regards to any statements, people do need to be here.
Okay, so you don't want me to read these things? No, okay, great. Turn them over. I see two hands, Antoinette. Tanya and Terry have hands up.
I said Tanya, Terry.
And me.
Thank you. So I guess I'm a little confused because it was only yesterday, I believe, that the superintendent sent us her proposal for a reopening plan with a link to the survey. So is that the plan that we're going to be voting on tonight, the one that we got yesterday, or is it all now open for discussion?
So let me be clear. The board did not receive the 5 days proposal yesterday. The board received that about 2 weeks ago in a Friday packet that I sent.
I'm sorry. I apologize. I meant the message from the superintendent, which I guess went out to the community. I apologize.
I don't want to confuse people thinking that I just gave the board something yesterday and I put it out. That's not true. The board had this a while ago. And then I sent it out to the community yesterday. The community has until Thursday to respond back. No, that is not the plan. But what that does is just allows us an opportunity to begin bringing kids back with more frequency.
So is that what we're voting on tonight?
You're not approving anything. That's not anything up for approval.
Okay.
I will be asking the board.
Excuse me, I think I was waiting for Antoinette to wave me in.
I said your name twice.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. I think you were muted.
No, I wasn't. I said your name 2 times.
Did anybody hear that my name was called 2 times?
No, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So excuse me. So first of all, Dr. Chase, thank you for clarifying that, because I did recall seeing that earlier. So thank you for clarifying that. And also Antoinette and I think it was Ivy or whomever it was, thank you for clarifying the rule regarding speaking when you're not, or questions being read when somebody is not available. We had been advised by previous council not to do that. I'm not going to bother you, Carol, about that, since it's a done deal. But excuse me. But thank you very much for clarifying that.
Madam President.
Ms. Perry, you go ahead.
Okay, I just want to say that, that sort of thing needs to be conveyed to the constituency on a regular basis. When they come to talk or they send in written messages, they want them to be heard, they want them to be written, they wanted them to be read, and they wanted them to be answered. So I think that we need to let them know that we will not be reading them if they send them in. Because I know there have been times we have read written questions, and now all of a sudden we're not doing it anymore. So I think it needs to be portrayed, or not portrayed, but you know what I mean. It's getting late. It needs to be told, and people should be told on a regular basis
that in order for you to have questions answered, you have to be present.
Thank you, Ms. Carey. David.
In previous years, in things like our upcoming budget discussions, there will actually be an email that people will be able to send things to. We've also read off of chats in the past when we dedicate an entire meeting to public feedback. So we need to clarify when we use which set of rules. Thanks.
Thank you for that, David. Okay. That is it, Tracy, am I correct?
Yes, that's it for the speakers. Sorry.
Okay, so the next, Dr. Chase, I'm assuming, and you correct me if I'm wrong, your report will be next. Do you still want the facilities and finance to go first, or do you want to run through yours and, you know, switch it vice versa?
So I thank you for asking. What I'm going to do is I'm going to defer my superintendent's report to later because I want to give the parents and those who are watching on YouTube land an opportunity to hear about the facilities report. I think people have waited a long time, so I don't want to take up any more time. So I'm going to defer.
Thank you. Okay, David and BBS, please.
All right. So I was just trying to make a Finance and Facilities Committee report. The Finance and Facilities Committee met on 3/11/21 at 7:30 p.m. via Zoom call. Attendees included David Warner, Laser Alert, Steve Lewis, Amy Ashley Moore, Chris Valens, James Wadig, Lisa Raymond, Deborah Dionis, Ashley Pineda, Fred Seba, Michael Falcone, Mona Freitag, Denise Alamo, Jessica Muldoon, Heather Gordon, Steve Morton, Katie McGee, and Walter Simon. We discussed ECP main building temporary ventilation fixes and related heating and electrical work. So basically, we had been talking about the long-term fixes for the buildings, and then we realized that in order to get back to full-time in-person instruction, that we had to put the kids from Highview back in the ECP main building. But the reason we took them out of there to begin with was if you try and maintain good ventilation and you open up the windows, you'll freeze to death. Okay, so we figured out from RJ Bailey that that you can put in fans temporarily, but you've got to have a robust heating system. Bailey has a robust heating system. The heating system at ECP needs work. Okay, so that was what we talked about mostly. So we're bringing back that as the new item in addition to all the phase one stuff we were talking about before. So the main topic was ECP main building temporary ventilation fixes and related heating and electrical work, our schedule and financial status relative to this project, our recommendations to the board for phase one, an energy performance contract, and the ECP fixes. The meeting adjourned at 9 p.m. A more detailed set of minutes will be forthcoming. Tonight, we will concentrate on our short-term recommendations to the board. We concentrate on phase one recommendations, an energy performance contract, and ECP ventilation fixes to support a return to full-time in-person instruction. Those will be the last couple of slides in the presentation. We'll talk about that and we'll go straight to Q&A. Long-term phase two and ECP wing recommendations will be addressed at a future meeting. Regarding the early childhood program short-term ventilation fixes, do we need to do significant work to make the ECP main building ready for fall? Yes. Do we have the money to complete the project? Yes. And can we complete the repairs in time for fall? Yes. Tonight, number one, BBS Architects will present our recommendations for phase one for an energy performance contract and for ECP short-term fixes. 2, BBS and Mike Falcone, our facilities director, will answer questions from the Board of Education and anybody else who wants to chime in. 3, Lisa Raymond will tell us how we will pay for the projects. And 4, we will request board adoption of our recommendations. I sent you a written copy of the recommendations. We'll read them out when we get to the end. And if the board adopts them, we move forward with the process. At this point, we go forth and BBS will now tell us about what our recommendations are. Take it away, Fred and James.
Okay, thank you, David. Jim, would you be able to screen share? Do you have the ability to do that? We can bring our presentation up.
Let me see. Everybody see that?
No, not yet.
No?
Does James Wading have the ability to screen share? Can we give him that?
He does.
It looks like, hold on.
Thank you,
Come
Lee.
on. That's there. Go share.
I see you. Oh,
Here
here
we
it
go.
comes.
Something happening.
All right, it's coming up now.
All right, hold on.
Are we doing the ECP part first, David?
Well, I have this set up to do the ECP, yes, first.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
Everybody see that?
Yes.
All right, good.
Jim, thank you.
So yeah, the presentation that we have here will, I guess we kind of flip some of the cards in the deck here to start with the ECP building and some of those project repair recommendations that we discussed with the facilities committee, finance and facilities committee. So again, thank you for having us tonight, and we got a bunch of things to cover. I know you guys have been busy with things prior to this, so we'll try to get through this as quickly and painlessly as possible. So the early childhood program, the main building, the idea was to come up with solutions that would allow children to move back to the main building. They're currently scattered about, some at Jackson, some at Highview. And the idea is to move them, out of those buildings, since they're going to be trying to get to 100% capacity with regular students, and the ECP program is going to kind of be in the way of that. So moving them out of those schools will free up the much needed space for the students to occupy their spaces at Jackson and at Highview. So there's immediate repairs that we, Fred went out and took a look at. There was some issues with heating in the building. With this cold weather, it wasn't good with trying to keep up with open windows to keep up with the loss of heat. So there was a bunch of things we had to kind of look at, and there was some immediate repairs and some long-term repairs. And then there was future considerations. What would this building ultimately be used for 3 years from now? Would there be an addition for the ECP program? Could it be used for other school district functions or programs? Is there a possibility for community needs that the building can be utilized for? So these were the three main things we were looking at when we started to devise, the solutions. So looking at the immediate repairs, Fred, if you want, most of these things were
Let me jump in.
mechanically related.
So I went out to the building, and the comment had been made, I think, by Michael Falcone, that there was some concern regarding doing a temporary fix like you had done in some of your other buildings, where you put fans in the windows, you introduced fresh air. Michael was concerned, and several other people reiterated their concern that that building struggles with heating itself, even without introducing fresh air at this point. So we were asked to go take a look at it. And I did that. I spent a fairly good amount of time up there looking at the systems, looking at the building. And what I found was that the boiler in that building is relatively new. It's 3 or 4 years old. It had been replaced 3 or 4 years ago. That boiler has more than enough capacity to heat that building with or without fresh air. Probably has twice as much capacity as it needs to. So that's the good news. We don't have any issues with that. We looked at the boiler, we looked at the heating system, and what's happening is, when I spent some time down in the boiler room, it became very apparent to me that there's a flow issue in that building. The temperature of the water in the boiler was 190 degrees. It goes out at 190 degrees, but it comes back at maybe 90 or 100 degrees with a delta T of 100. That should not be happening. So what that indicates is that there's a flow issue, that the water is moving too slowly through the building, through the baseboard radiation. And as a result, it's not being able to really transfer much heat. I also noticed that the boiler was short cycling which indicates the exact same thing, that there's a flow issue. The boiler itself is piped differently than what we would do nowadays. It's piped the way they did it, many years ago. And it's piped so that the circulators, and there are 4 zones in this building, the circulators are on the return, and that's not typical for today. And there's several reasons why we don't do that nowadays. So what we're recommending in bullet 1 is, number 1, we feel that the biggest issue there is the circulator pumps are undersized. The piping is relatively small. It's 3/4 inch for the most part in the building. And those circulators cannot overcome the head pressure or the friction loss. So therefore, our first recommendation is we need to change those circulator pumps out. We also need to redo the piping, the near boiler piping, so that the circulators are on the supply side of the boiler so that we get that correct. We want to replace the expansion tank and the air separator so that we make sure that we don't get our system airbound and it's not going to impede any of the flow. The second thing that was commented on was that the windows are drafty and leaky and that there are operational issues, and we want to put fans in there and open them. That could be a problem. And the windows have been replaced at some point. They're relatively modern type windows, but there are a number of issues with them. Number 1, the balances, they're double hung windows. The balances that are built into the windows that allow the windows to go up and down easily have failed, and those need to be replaced. Not the windows, just the balances. The windows themselves are leaky as far as allowing air infiltration, so they need to be resealed. And those windows need to be safe for reopening so that they're not going to open it and then the window's going to come crashing down. So that's the second recommendation in there. Number 3 is that there are some rooms in that building that are not tied on the boiler, specifically the rear hallway that goes back towards the nurse's office, the kitchen area, as well as the resource room. They all have the resource room and the hallway have some electric baseboard in there, but it's not sized properly to overcome the heat loss for those spaces. So we need to supplement that with some supplemental electric heat. And the kitchen itself has no heat in it right now. It relies on, I guess, the heat given off by the walk-in or the reach-in refrigerator freezer units that are in there. So we need to add some supplemental heat in there. And the last thing that we noticed is that there was a question that came up regarding classroom 3. The hand sink did not have hot water. And I spoke to the maintenance person who spent the day with me, and that the hot water worked at that sink, but there was a complaint the hot water was too hot. So we're recommending that a tempering valve be installed in that location to resolve that issue. I don't know if you want to go to the next slide, Jim. We do have estimates along with this. Okay. So there were a couple of other things that we also discussed with the committee. We believe that those issues that I just mentioned are going to resolve the heating issue in that building and are going to put out enough heat to properly heat that building, along with opening the windows the way you did at Bailey and some of your other buildings. Some of the other things that we noticed, the hot water baseboard is an old slant fin residential type. It's not a high output baseboard. It's also fairly small. It's a 3/4 inch. So we're recommending as additional repairs to consider. And again, this is kind of like a phase 2. We feel that phase 1, that the circulators and the other items that we mentioned, if they get implemented, it should resolve the issue there. But this is kind of a phase 2 to consider, that replace the baseboard heat with a larger bore baseboard heater, something that's commercial grade, like a Sterling product, and something that's high output and also has a high resistance enclosure around it. The second thing that we noticed is that we can't determine if there's any insulation in the ceilings in that building. The ceilings are sheetrock, and then above that is the attic, which is board. It's all wood board. I didn't want to, create holes in any of that and destroy any of it, do any destructive investigation. I believe in speaking with Mr. Falcone, as well as our architect who had looked at that building, we don't believe there's any insulation in there. If that's a true statement, we're going to be losing a tremendous amount of heat through the ceilings because the attic is unheated in that building and is essentially roughly the same temperature as the outside. So these are 2 additional recommendations that we came up with. Again, we believe that the first set of recommendations, if you want to jump back to the first slide, that previous slide, Jim, I forgot to mention in the lower right-hand corner is the cost estimate for that. So it's $99,000 is the estimated cost at this point in order to implement these fixes. The next slide, the items, the additional items, the cost total on that was an additional $150,000.
I believe Ashley Pineda has his hand up.
Thank you. Jim, can you go back one slide to the previous one, please? Thank you. I just want to clarify for our community. I know the answer to the question, but I'm not sure if everyone understands this fully. This slide that we're seeing here that Fred Ziba was just walking us through, the cost is $99,000 as you see there. These repairs are what David will provide later as committee recommendations. These can be completed on time before September to allow us to return the children that are in the Highview School today to the ECP main building. This is not the permanent full repair. They'll talk about that more in the next coming slides. But the point is, this is the plan to allow us to reoccupy the ECP main building so that the children can go back. And this can be done by September.
Thank you, Ashley.
The next slide that Fred is covering is additional recommendations, as he mentioned, to further make things better, but that can happen after the fact, right? So I just want to make sure that's clear to everyone, because folks that may not have been in those committee meetings may not understand that. That was all. Thank you.
That's helpful, Ashley. Thank you.
Fred, can you tell us from the time that we get approval about how long will it take to make the repairs on slide 1?
So we're estimating it's going to take us a couple of weeks to design it. We have to select pumps. We have to do a number of different calculations. We have to provide some drawings and some written scope to Mr. Falcone. It'll take him a couple of weeks to get pricing from a contractor. Once we have a contractor lined up, that contractor will order the materials. Everything should be fairly readily available. He might have to order the pumps. They might take a week or two to get there. And we feel that the actual work on the property will probably take 2 to 3 weeks. So we think that all of this work can easily be done by sometime in the middle of the summer. We don't really want to undertake it now because you have to drain the system down in order to do that. And it's still cold out, so we don't want to freeze anything up there and risk that. But once the weather really breaks, probably in another 2, 3, 4 weeks, then we can get in there, start draining the system down and start performing this work.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I have a question on the slide that's up right now, but I don't know if anyone else has any questions. I'm scrolling through. I don't see any more hands raised. Provide insulation above sheetrock ceiling in the classrooms. Can you kind of elaborate on that? That's something, I guess, that is kind of almost free, right? That can be done locally, correct?
It could be done locally, but I don't think so. I think the easiest way to do that is probably to use blown-in insulation. And I don't know if your staff has the ability to do something like that. We're assuming that we would bring in an outside contractor, or that Mr. Falcone would bring in an outside contractor and use blown-in insulation. The other thing is that we're going to talk about an energy performance contract in a couple of minutes. And this is an item that would very well fit within an energy performance contract because there are definitely energy savings associated with that. So
awesome. Okay, thank you. Have we been losing energy or heat over the years with that?
Yes, we believe you have. There's a couple of other things there. There are other recommendations. These are the major ones, but
okay.
There are vents in the ceiling at the office area over there. I think that was run to be connected to a future air conditioning unit for central air.
Okay.
Right now, the ductwork was run and it just goes up into the attic and it stops and it's wide open. So all of the heat in those office spaces is going up through those vents and up into the attic. So we're losing heat that way. We're losing heat through the uninsulated ceiling. So those are all going to help. These are all going to help us in trying to properly heat.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Okay, Jim, go to the next slide. Okay, so this is kind of a summary of what we've been doing with the district. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. We were hired a little over a year ago, brought in as a fresh set of eyes to really look at your buildings. So the first thing we did was a BCS, which is a building condition survey report. Spent a lot of time walking your buildings, talking to your staff, maintenance personnel, head custodians, principals, things like that. We then held some meetings with the board to review the results of that. The board asked for a prioritized list, so we gave that to them, and it was priorities 1 through 5. We're in a 5-year plan, which would correlate to years 1 through 5. We then started our meetings with the Finance and Facilities Committee and went through all of those items. And then the Finance and Facilities Committee said, we have a certain amount of money in reserves. We would like you to look at what projects you would recommend BBS in order to get done first as part of that money. So that's what we have put together, and I'll show you those slides in a couple of minutes. They also made the determination to move ahead as a phase 1 project, which is basically using those reserves. Again, it's a little over $5 million, and I'll show you the projects that we're recommending that we've discussed with the committee, and using those to move forward on a phase 1. Again, we have the immediate repairs at ECP, and then we have a phase 1, and then we also have a discussion of an energy performance contract. And I know I'm going to call the energy performance contract EPC. You show the the abbreviation here. I know I've confused it a couple of times, or people have been confused with ECP. I apologize. It's just part of the acronym on an energy performance contract. So I'll explain that in a second. Okay, so we just have some photos here of some of the things that we're finding around your buildings that we're recommending in phase 1. So you can see in the upper left, we have some glass panels there at high view. What's the issue with that, Jim? I know there's code compliance issue with that.
Right, this wall needs to be a fire rated wall. Right now it's concrete block up to the underside of the windows, and then these are panels that have been painted or sealed over, but they're either glass or some other infill that isn't fire rated. So the recommendation is to remove what's above the block and then continue up with a fire rated material to provide the separation between the gymnasium and the corridor space, which is required.
So I just want to kind of globalize a little bit the direction that the committee gave us. So what they wanted us to focus on was health and safety, ventilation because of COVID, code requirements, things like ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act, handicap accessibility, and then building envelope. Those are the things that they wanted us to focus on. That's the direction they gave us. So you'll see that each of the items that we're going to discuss tonight as being part of our recommendation for phase 1 fits into those categories. You'll see the top middle picture. That's Bailey Elementary School, some of the original equipment that is still there. That is the air handler that used to feed the auditorium that no longer works, and we cannot get replacement parts for. So that unit is going to have to be replaced, and that's part of phase 1. And the photo below is kind of a wider shot of that unit. As you can see, it's original from the 1930s. I'm going to say 1920s, 1930s. So it's 100 years old, and it looks it. And we had a contractor go look at it with that Mr. Falcone brought in, and there's no way that we can get replacement parts and get that unit working again. That unit has to be replaced. In the upper right, you have a number of very antiquated pneumatic controls in your building. Those are control systems that were original to the building, and there are very few people nowadays that can actually work on them and work on them well. The future is going, or not the future, the present really is going to direct digital controls, DDC. And so a number of our recommendations are to get in there and to replace some of the pneumatic controls with DDC. You want to talk about the 2 roofs, Jim?
Yeah, this roof is at Highview Elementary School. From what we could see, there's been a lot of repair work done. There's obviously some leaking issues that have been maintained throughout the years, but this type of roof system, which is a ballasted built-up asphalt roof, is way beyond its life expectancy right now. So you're just going to continue to be chasing leaks and repairs. So this entire roof needs to be replaced at some point in time, but we're, looking at the possibility of working in sections to, with the money that's available, working in the worst areas first, and then, hitting others as we, get more down the road with some other capital projects and perhaps a bond. And then this is the Woodlands Middle School, High School roof, pretty much the same as Highview, very old ballasted asphalt built up roof. It's got some issues with ponding and water just sitting up there, which is a real bad thing for a roof because it just starts to deteriorate what's below and eventually makes its way into the building. Especially this time of year when there's a lot of freeze and thaw and we're going into the spring, you're going to start to see these leaks popping up all over the place because that 2 or 3 weeks where we experience some 0-degree weather is just shrunk, it's allowed the, materials to shrink, and now they're going to be, these open cracks will appear and there'll be problems with leaking. So we want to, address those issues before they become too extensive.
As Jim changes the slide, I started to mention building envelope. Let me define that a little bit better. So building envelope is really the outside of the building, the roof, the windows, the masonry, things like that, that we want to make sure they're tight so that we can maintain the interior of the building. And that was really one of the things that the committee wanted us to focus on as well. So the upper left here, that is a unit ventilator at Bailey. And you say, well, that doesn't look like a modern unit ventilator. And that's because it's not. It's, again, from 1930. We had a contractor pull that apart, and our original hope was to get them running again. And the contractor pulled it apart, and he said, there's no way you're ever going to get parts for any of these unit ventilators. The types of fan boards that are in there, the fan wheels, all of that, just not available anymore. They haven't made those unit ventilators since probably the 1950s. So again, parts not available. I'll do mine on here. The upper right ventilation equipment at LF Jackson, that is the fresh air intake chamber that brings fresh air into that building. On the right-hand side there, you can see the filter bank. As the fresh air comes in, it gets filtered out. The problem is, I wish this doesn't really show the fresh air intake. It's on the upper left there. It's kind of out of the picture, but right now it's been chocked open by the district in order to get fresh air in. Obviously, that's not a good long-term solution. We need the damper opening and closing so that we don't waste energy and we don't risk any kind of a freeze up, during the winter months. So that is part of the controls upgrades that we're going to be mentioning a number of times tonight. And again, you can see that fan again, that's a different fan in Bailey, but again, same type of fan. That might be the one for the gymnasium, which we are trying to get running again. We found that the fan wheel was still free. We did have to replace the motor. We did have to replace the electric, but we are trying to get that fan operational again. So those are those 3 pictures on the mechanical side.
Inside the building at Lee F. Jackson, you have these classrooms that are really beautiful with this, these glass panels and light going into them. But, the same problem we had at Highview where this glass wall is not, fire rated wall. Some of these panels are actually like a plate glass, which isn't allowed either. So, it could be a problem if someone were to break that. It could be an issue safety wise. So we would want to recommend that these, part of recommendation in the reports is to have these units removed and replaced with a solid fire rated panel in those openings. This is at Bailey Elementary School, very old school, as Fred mentioned, 1930s. So back then, doorway width wasn't really a consideration for a person in a wheelchair. Nowadays, we need to allow access into toilet facilities and classrooms where wheelchair access is going to be expected. So these doorways need to be modified either with a push button device that allows this door to swing without a wheelchair needing to be pushed up against it to open it, or widened in certain instances if it's just too narrow for a wheelchair to get past. These doors are set into these deep recessed pockets about 12 inches deep, which prevents the person in a wheelchair from being able to navigate the handle, open the door, and get in freely. So we would recommend that they do a push button actuator, which allows this door to automatically open. Then the person, can get into the bathrooms.
I think Tracy has her hand up.
Yeah, so just for clarity, would you need to widen those walls then, or?
If the doorway needs to be expanded by 6 inches, then there would be a required opening to make this wider, yes.
And
It's
then
not all doors, but we would have to be specific as to where we need the handicap access and what doesn't currently allow. If it's 30 inches wide, we can do things with hardware, allowing the door to swing open further. But we'll evaluate what needs to be widened and what needs to be modified in place that we can keep.
And then with this particular building, would you then need to do remediation because of any asbestos or anything?
I believe some of these floors are terrazzo. The tile here looks to be like a plaster, which we need to have tested, because most likely some of the plaster would.
And
might be asbestos.
is this, I think I heard Ashley say before, so this is not involved in reopening.
No.
So, I mean, for the essence of time, is there any way to kind of consolidate this portion so that we can get to the pieces that we need? I heard about ECP. I would love for us to vote on that and move forward, but is there other pieces in the other buildings like Jackson and Bailey and that we need, that you guys are waiting on us with regard to our infrastructure and us making decisions so that we can reopen? Like, I'm wondering.
We're going to show you those in a second.
Okay, all right.
Right.
Thank
Show
you.
you.
I'll be patient. Okay, thank you.
Sorry. We just wanted to show a couple of pictures because sometimes if there's worth 1,000 words.
You're excellent. Thank you.
Things we're dealing with.
So yeah, we'll jump to the next slide, which is the beginning of the list of projects that will be recommended for phase 1 work at each of the schools.
So
At Highview,
we talked about roof replacement. So we showed you the worst area. So this is the worst roof in the district, and that's the worst area of the worst roof in the district. So that's why we made the recommendation on Highview. You saw a picture of the glazed panels, elevator repairs. So we have an elevator in there that is not functional currently. So you do not have handicap access to the upper floors. And then we mentioned upgrading the controls on the air handling unit. Again, right now they're chocked in the open position, but we need to get those working again. So replacement of the pneumatics with DDC controls at a total cost of $575 for Highview. I'm just going to go through these really quickly.
Yeah, quickly.
Yeah. So this is Jackson, again, pneumatic controls, same thing, fresh air intakes, and some emergency lighting that's missing from that building, 103. And we have a summary sheet in a minute. So at Bailey, this is by far the largest dollar amount out of the little over 5 million. As you can see, it's almost 3.5 by itself, because this is the biggest problem as far as fresh air of all of the buildings. So we talked about the unit ventilators, the auditorium H&V unit. We have to upgrade the building exhaust system. That was non-functional. The district was able to get that working again, but again, it's chocked open. We have some emergency lighting we need to take care of there. And then again, we have some ADA stuff. And a lot of these items are things that no matter what work we do at this building, we are going to have to check a form called an evaluation of existing building form. If we check things as non-conformance, they are not going to allow us to proceed ahead with that project until we take care of them. So most of the items that you'll see on this list fit into that category. At Woodlands, again, we have some non-fire rated window units and fire rated walls, same thing. Same thing with stairwell doors, auditorium stairwell doors. We have to modify some ductwork. We had ductwork that fed some rooms through an air handler. Those rooms were subdivided and grills did not get put into each of the new subdivided rooms. We have some emergency lighting here, and again, some DDC controls on the fresh air intake dampers, $256,000 for this building. And the ECP. So this is phase 1. So now we have the immediate work that we talked about before that's going to happen in ECP. This will happen afterwards. Most of this work will probably happen the summer of 2022, just because of the design time and then the state education department review time, which right now is at about 4.5 months, and then ordering the equipment. So We want to provide mechanical exhaust fans in all the toilet rooms. Right now, there is no exhaust in there, and most of the toilet rooms don't have windows, so you don't have the ability to open a window either. Provide mechanical ventilation, so this would be heated fresh air, as opposed to putting a fan in the window, bringing fresh air in, and the heating system heating the space up. This is like a unit ventilator or something similar to that, which you have in the majority of your other classrooms. Again, some additional emergency lighting and exit signs, and configuring 2 toilet rooms for ADA handicap accessibility. So this is kind of, it's called phase 1, but it's really phase 2 on the ECP building. And then on the administration building, excuse me, if we're going to reoccupy that building, we have some issues with faucets that are non-functional. We have some toilet room sinks that do not have hot water to them, which is required by code. And we have some light fixtures that are missing lenses, and which is dangerous because if through normal vibration a lamp falls out, it's going to fall down and potentially hit somebody. And that total cost is $18,500. Okay, so this is just a quick schedule that we put together for phase 1. Again, so ECP is going to be done this summer, the emergency repairs, in order to get it back up and running again. Phase 1, though, would become the $5 million or so project using your reserves. So the design phase, we would, as soon as the budget gets approved, or the project gets approved by the voters and the school district, we would start design. We have some field work in there to go field measure everything. We have about 3 months worth of design meetings, putting our drawings and specs together, and we submit them to the state. We've shown 2 months SED review and approval, which hopefully will be true at that point. It's a little bit higher right now. And then once we get approval, a month to prepare them, make copies, get everything ready for bid. Everything goes out for public bid. So any prices we show you, hopefully will be even more competitive once we get bids in. Right now, the environment out there is good. We're getting a lot of contractors bidding on our projects. They're really hungry for work, and the pricing has been good and reflected that. So we'll bid it in December 2021, put it out for bid for a month to review and make our awards, a month for contract signing. And so we're looking to start construction in May of 2022, with the bulk of the work happening over the summer of 22.
That's the end of the slides for phase 1. I don't know if there's any comments, or should we just go right into the EPC slide, energy performance slides?
It's 11:05. Let's go.
Okay. So we discussed energy performance contract with the committee. So basically, an energy performance contract takes any projects that will save energy, be more efficient, and I'll give you a list of those projects at each of the buildings in a second. The way an energy performance contract works is that it doesn't cost the taxpayers any money because it pays for itself out of the energy savings. So in fact, out of a portion of the energy savings. So what'll happen is, we'll put an RFP out, we'll get an ESCO, an energy service company on board. We will, again, this is a competitive bid. It's an RFP process. We'll solidify with the ESCO what the work is going to be. The ESCO, we design it, goes up to the state, the same way a capital project does. State approves it. They approve the ESCO's calculations. They approve the contract, ESCO's contract. Then they start to do the work. The district borrows money, but then they pay the money back over a 15 or 18-year period out of the energy savings. And they're guaranteed energy savings. So if the ESCO guarantees that you're going to save, say, $200,000 a year, and the second year you only save $180,000, they get to write you a check for the $20,000 difference. Let's see, I think I covered everything on there. You can go to the next slide, Jim. So these are the proposed projects. These are taken out of the 5-year plan, the building condition survey report that we prepared and that the board and the committee have taken a look at. It totals about $6 million that we can take out of that and get done without burdening the taxpayers. So a lot of it is insulation, boiler insulation, pipe insulation. A lot of it is controls. We need to do some controls immediately in phase 1, but then with the energy performance contract, we're going to tackle as much of the remaining controls as we can. Insulate water service piping, and the biggest ticket item in the energy performance contract will be lighting. Changing lighting out to LED. There's a tremendous amount of savings associated with that. And you can reduce usually your electric bill by 40 to 50% by doing lighting replacement with LED. So this building was 755. Jackson, again, same types of projects there. We have a water heater in here that would fit within the energy performance contract. The total on this one is 845. At Bailey, we have burner replacement in there with more efficient burners. Steam traps, that's a steam building. And so we want to replace or retrofit those traps in order to make it more efficient. We have controls, pipe insulation, and lighting, 1.25 million. At Woodlands, we have controls and lighting in that building, 1.8 million due to the sheer size of the building. At administration office, again, we have insulation, we have controls, we have lighting, and we have a water heater. So a little over $400,000 for that building. And there'll be a total sheet in a second. Okay, so quick schedule on that. We issue an RFP. This doesn't have to wait for the May budget vote. We issue an RFP, say in April. It's out on the street for a couple of months. We get the results back. Because it's an RFP and not a bid, we have the right and the ability to negotiate scope. So we're going to pick all of the particular energy conservation measures that the district likes best. And then we'll go back to each of those contractors and ask them for a best and final offer. They will then provide an investment grade audit, which they are guaranteeing at that point. They'll be guaranteed energy savings. And then we'll start the design work after the district selects that contractor and moves ahead. Submission of plans and specs next spring, about a year from now, 3 months for SED review, and starting the construction phase next summer, July of 2022. I know I'm moving very quickly, so please forgive me.
No, I would prefer for you to move quickly because what you're saying is none of this has to do with reopening, correct?
No, correct.
Okay, so because all of this is very important and we need to move on phase one, you know, in my opinion, but I'm wondering, how do we take care of reopening first? I heard the ECP thing. I didn't hear other infrastructure things that we need to do to reopen. So I'm trying to kind of get to that so we can.
That's because we can reopen.
We can reopen.
The one piece that was stopping us was we had no place to put the ECP kids back. Once we do that, you put all the desks back in, and then the things that are stopping you are not the infrastructure anymore. So it's not going to be a facilities issue. It's going to be about Department of Health regulations. It's going to be about who's inoculated. It's about how close kids can be to each other. We go over that in that committee of 70 people and figure out a grand plan for that. But facilities is good.
So one of the prior slides had the work for ECP done, I want to say before September, which is great, but yeah. Unless it's done now, are you saying we cannot reopen because we don't have the space?
You can't go to full capacity, full-time in-person instruction for everybody until you have space for everybody. You can do more kids than you have, but not everybody.
I'm a little confused, okay? Because why wasn't that just said? So that everyone is not thinking there's a way we can reopen.
There is a way we can reopen.
You just said there's not a way for every. When I say reopen,
if we complete the repairs, we can reopen.
If we complete the repairs, but okay, I see Ashley's hand. Maybe he should talk because I'm
sure. Go ahead, Ashley.
Goes back to what I said earlier. That very first slide. That's all we need to do to get ECP open. Is the $99,000 in repairs, which I will defer to our Assistant Superintendent of Finance to confirm. But my understanding is we already have those funds. We could already move forward on that. Everything else that's come after that is giving the community and the Board of Education the long-term plan of what our next steps are. But all we need to do is the $99,000 step one for the ECP space, and then we're good to go for September.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for clarifying. So can we address that? We're good to go for September.
Yeah.
But between now, March 16th, and the end of June 20 something, whatever the last day is, I don't have my calendar, it's 11 o'clock at night. You're saying that we're not able to fully reopen because of this one issue. Anyone?
Sure.
Not ECP.
Not ECP. What about Lee of Jackson? What about Bailey? What about the high school? It's not just ECP, it's ECP and Highview.
There are other possibilities. Highview will have interference.
Right.
Right. But yes, you can do things with other schools. You can work on other pieces. But if you want to get everybody, you got to do this.
Why don't we, is Dr. Chase, I'm assuming it's Dr. Chase, but maybe I'm wrong, but why don't we have a survey that's asking parents exactly who wants to come back full time, given how things are right now? Because you're going to have a segment of people that are not comfortable coming back full time and that would like to just stay virtual for the rest of the year until they feel more comfortable, until we have more time to do the buildings or whatever other time is needed. I saw a slide that had projected dates on there, months that things could be done. Why will we not survey the parents now and say, hey parent, do you want to bring your kids back full time? And if they do, then we'll have a number, like we have X amount of parents that want their kids back, and then we can actually say yes or no. Because right now we're saying, or I think you just said no, because of ECP being in Highview, but maybe if we get an actual number.
What a great idea.
Yeah, I have them every once in a
while. Good.
So
we will do that.
Who's going to do that?
The administration about that.
I'm talking to administration. Yep. I see Dr. Reynolds. I don't know if Dr. Chase is. Yes, I see Dr. Chase. Good.
That's
okay. Let's blaze on through.
What are we blazing through? I thought we were talking about reopening, David.
We're trying to get this done because this figures into the budget.
Okay.
We have to schedule a public hearing, and we have to pass a resolution to schedule a public hearing to fund everything.
Maybe it's late. I heard Ashley, I don't know if you can clarify for me. I heard he say the ECP slide, which is not there, that said $99,000. Do we need to have a special meeting for $99,000? No, we don't need to have a hearing for that?
I believe we can just
use funding from the repair reserve, then we need it. If we scrape money together from elsewhere, then we could get by with the 99K without it. I've asked Lisa to come and show us one slide of how she intends to pay for everything, and that will answer your question. Let's get to Lisa. So we need to finish this out so we can get to Lisa. She'll show you how things are prepared, and you can ask that question and get her to change it if you think you can. Okay, go ahead.
All right, so we'll finish up real quick. So you can see the phase 1 capital project using the reserves that you guys have in place. This is the project that we came up with in agreement with the committee. It's a little over 5 million. And you can go to the next slide. The energy performance contract that I outlined before is almost $6 million worth of work. Again, no cost to the taxpayers. And that's it.
Mike Falcone, can you hear me?
Hello?
Yes. Okay. So what you've seen in terms of the short-term fixes for ECP, are we good? Will that do it?
I just have to add that I have to do a lot of patching around that building. I ended up, because we had complaints about rodents upstairs. So there were squirrels upstairs. I think at one time they had raccoons. So I had the exterminator over there trying to catch the rodents. But while he was there, he was inspecting the outside of the building. There's numerous of holes, rotted wood all around ECP. I just had a carpenter contractor there. I believe it was yesterday, and he just gave me a quote. It's going to be around $31,000. He's guessing so many hours to try to patch up every hole around ECP. The mice problem, they're working on that as well. So
let me ask you two questions then. First question, can you have those repairs completed in the time frame of the other repairs?
I don't see why not. I just have to have the go ahead. I do need to help BBS because they need to design the heating system. That needs to be designed. I don't want anybody just to put in or think. A lot of guys do the thumb method. I like his recommendation. I do have a plumbing and heating contractor. I have a heating contractor. I'm not sure if we can go through them. Does it have to be filed? That's something that I need to work with everyone, BBS, saying if we can go ahead and do it on our current contract, I'll do it. Windows, I did the research on the window company that you recommended. Fred, I think you mentioned it last time. They are on state contract. Okay, I did some research on, if we can use them. I would have to get them in. Things gonna take time. We have 4 months to do this, I guess, right? 5 months to get everyone ready. It's your decision whether
Time is not an issue. Good. Second question, 31K. We check with Lisa, and I think there's at least 31K sitting there that we can still use. Let's get to the Lisa slide unless other people have questions.
I like that idea. Oh, I see Dr. Chase's hand.
Dr. Chase.
Mr. Falcone, I do have a question. As I indicated earlier, it appears that the CDC will begin to make a new recommendation about the social distance and spacing. Even though they're having the discussion, I have a feeling that they're going to make the recommendation, and many leaders around the country believe that as well. If that is the case, will Highview be able to open full-time with its current capacity of in-person kids, with the ECP kids who are here, who are there for in-person instruction? So I want you to just take away from the remote, because most remote parents are going to remain remote. Most, not all. So given the population that's there now, if we were to go to 3 feet of distance, will we be able to have the capacity to house those ECP kids as well as the Highview kids full time?
Okay.
That's, you know what?
Let's
Michael,
you
that
have
was
a classroom.
that was no, don't, that was an unfair question, and I put you on the spot because I didn't give you a chance to look at measurements and count heads and count desks. That's not fair. Can you
The
just
answer is I will get back to you.
Yeah, I don't want to put you on the spot.
It could be done.
Yeah,
think it
I
could
just
be
don't
done.
want you to say
There's-
something that we have to regret and take back later. So I apologize for my question. Yep.
I would have to walk and explain maybe how it could be done, but and there would be, that's a discussion that we would have to,
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's just something to think about. So I'm
Yes.
just going to ask you if you could possibly prioritize that. Walk through Highview, given the population that's there now.
Mhm.
If you were to do away with the AB week, and these kids are here every day, 5 days a week, every week, there's no longer a hybrid. Could it be possible to house everyone safely, given the new requirement of 3 feet distance?
Like I said, we would have to have a.
Right, that's what I'm asking. Can you explore that?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's all.
Dr. Chase, is it possible to get a survey to find out how many families actually want to use in person? Because the families that choose to stay home might actually help the families that want to use in person, and we might have lower numbers.
Yep, one survey at a time. I think we have one out there already. One survey at a time. Again, it's a phase process. It would be helpful once I get that information from Mr. Falcone, because I think it'll help the district tremendously in terms of some of the possibilities that we can present to the board.
Awesome, thank you. I see Tanya's hand.
Yes, so There must be something that I'm missing here because there are a number of districts around us that are planning to open fully, completely 5 days a week on April 19th. I believe that Elmsford is the only one that's opening on April 6th, 4 full days. So how were they able to come up with opening plans before they knew these CDC guidelines? Did they just like, I don't believe that they like suddenly doubled their space or something to accommodate all the kids. So I'm trying hard to understand why it is that they can open on the 19th and we're still having this discussion about 3 or 6 feet of distancing.
So I see Dr. Reynolds' hand. I'm just going to start it, and Dr. Reynolds, if you can just end it for me. The districts, we're talking about maybe half the districts in Westchester, and it's not all of them. Many are not doing it. Many are waiting and phasing in. So, and I also want to make clear that a lot of districts also invested heavily in their ventilation prior to COVID and also too during the school year. So some districts did a really, really good job in investing in their ventilations, and they're not doing what we're doing and housing kids in another school. That's one reason. Dr. Reynolds, is there more that or something that I may have neglected to mention?
Or just to piggyback on the subject of the 3 feet versus the 6 feet. We all must keep in mind that the CDC has 5 mitigating practices in its current reopening plan to schools. We also have to keep in mind that the CDC is a federal agency and was making recommendations to schools in 50 states. It also states in their reopening plan that each local agency, which is the local Department of Health, is the one who guides how schools are reopened within its contingency.
That's correct.
Several school districts who are planning to reopen have independently moved away from the 6 feet guideline, which is one of the 5 mitigating practices recommended by the CDC. As a matter of fact, it was just on the news yesterday that the CDC is now reconsidering and conducting studies to see whether 3 feet can be 3 feet of space between persons can be recommended wholeheartedly by the entire office of the CDC. So again, we are not a district that has implemented the 3 feet of distancing because it is not recommended by the Department of Health of New York State. These districts are acting independently, and that's why not all of the districts are reopening.
But we could choose to act independently and just have the 3 feet of distancing. I mean, I'm just curious here because, we've started talking about reopening in January. Basically, we had an Education and Wellness Committee meeting in February where we discussed this. You're right, Dr. Chase. You mentioned that you were considering this in our March 5th packet. You sent out your message yesterday. It's March. We need to get the kids back. I mean, I think we clearly are hearing the parents that the parents want the kids back in the schools. So, I mean, something's got to give here, right? To accommodate that very strong desire that we're hearing at this point. So could we just say we're doing 3 feet and whoever's willing to send their kids back at 3 feet of distance is going to do it?
I will defer to experts in this area. I will not make a decision on whether 3 feet or 6 feet is acceptable. I know that some districts had to actually get approval from the Department of Health. I would rather work with medical professionals to make that decision, but I have to tell you, as a superintendent, I have to abide by what the Department of Health tells me. I don't have the luxury of making a decision, and God forbid if someone gets sick, and because we've made our own decision, the district is held liable, and I'm held liable for making that decision. So if that's the board's recommendation, I mean, that's fine. I think there should be some exploration in terms of what the Department of Health says. But the Department of Health has not lifted its 6 feet requirement at all. They have not. And many school districts are adhering to that. There are some school districts that have more space than others. Unfortunately, Greenberg Central School District does not, and each school district is unique. Um, I would love to hear the board's recommendation on considering 3 feet versus 6 feet.
Mr. Williams?
I'm sorry, David. Um, um, I see Terry's hand up, so go ahead.
Thank you, Tracy, and thank you, David. I know sometimes habits are hard to break. You were president for a while, but Tracy's running the show. I would just add to that, first of all, thank you, Dr. Chase, for your principled stance on that. And I would just caution us, we all have opinions, and that's fine, but we should take special care in not saying, can the board, or can we, the district, do this, and say that I would like to see this done, because I'm going to defer to the experts here as well. Because I can't have it on my conscience that just because parents, and I understand the difficulties. Don't get me wrong. I understand the difficulties of having children at home and trying to work, and of course their own social and mental well-being. But if the experts are still telling us to move slow on this, I would argue that we should do that. But more importantly is, if you have an opinion, speak about it as your opinion. Don't say the full board. Don't say we. Say I feel. And what I feel right now, and I'm not a virologist, but what I feel right now is that we should follow the guidelines. And I understand that parents will be upset about it, but in the long run, if we follow the experts, we will come out the better for this. I mean, we see how many people have passed on because they did not follow the experts. So again, if you have an opinion, please share your opinion, because that helps us all. But don't characterize your opinion as we until the board sends a direction that a majority wants to move in a certain direction. Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you, Terry. And I just wanted to clarify for everyone, our president did have to leave the meeting. She informed us all early on that she would have to leave mid-meeting. It's 11:30 at night, so I think she stayed a pretty long time before she did have to go. So that's why I'm talking. So did anyone else have any other questions? I see.
Go ahead, Tanya.
Right, so I'm still curious how these districts made this decision, because I assume that they would be subject to the same litigation that you are concerned about. So did they actually ask the community if they were willing to send the kids back? I mean, I'm just trying to understand what the process was in those districts that did reopen.
I can't speak to their process.
Okay.
I can only speak to what I would prefer to do for Greenberg Central School District and ensure that we stay in compliance. I don't think we have the luxury to not, but I mean, it's something that can be explored as to what they did. I do know spacing is a concern here, and I just think that we've got to scaffold this and phase it and do this carefully and responsibly.
So fundamentally, I think because I want this message to be clear. I mean, on the one hand, we're discussing these repairs to ECP, which we absolutely need to do. But at the same time, I think what I'm hearing is that, in fact, we're not going to be reopening anytime soon because you prefer, your recommendation as a superintendent is to follow the guidelines, which are currently 6 feet.
Nope, that's not what I said. What I said was I gave Mr. Falcone a directive to analyze the number of students who are in our schools so that I can make a more informed recommendation. I have not made any recommendation. What I am saying is that I am going to continue to follow the guidelines that were distributed by the New York State Department of Health, as well as the Westchester County Department of Health. I'm not going to deviate from them. However, if the board wishes to have me explore other avenues to get some sort of variance, I am happy to do so, but I am committed to the guidelines. The guidelines is what keeps us safe. You know, at the end of the day, I service a community of individuals who were impacted much differently from COVID-19 at the end of the day. And I have to keep that in mind. Children of color, which is the majority of our students, are impacted differently. Families of color, people of color. I have to keep in mind that this is the population that I serve. And so I have to be very, very careful in decisions that I make. And while I respect and understand as a parent myself the urgency to get back to school, I absolutely do. I do continue to ask parents for their patience and know that we're trying to follow all the guidelines to keep everyone safe and to keep everyone healthy while they're in the schools. Now, tomorrow, the CDC may release a statement saying that we are recommending 3 feet. And that's wonderful. The CDC can say anything. In fact, they've been making changes every week. But if the New York State Department of Health and the Westchester Department of Health does not include that as a mandate, then it's just a beautiful statement by the CDC. It's a recommendation. So we're following the New York State Department of Health guidelines in the Westchester County. And until they change, you know, we're going to stick with the 6 feet. But I did ask, and I want to be clear, I did ask Mr. Falcone, taking our current population of in-person students, take a look to see if there's some opportunity to bring everyone back. So I don't want to make a blanket statement by saying, no, I'm not making the recommendation to bring everyone back. I am stating that we need to take the time to explore what our options are. And then I need to bring those options back to the parents, because parents need to feel comfortable with sending their kids back. We don't want more kids going on remote learning. We want more kids coming back into the schools. And then I need to have these conversations with my staff, with my teachers, with my unions. There has to be an understanding of what it is that we're doing. So there is a process to this. And, you know, we're going to do our best to try, you know, to open schools.
Right. So I guess I just want to make this clear in my head as well. So long as the 6 feet are in place, we are not reopening.
I never said that.
Well, it seems
I never use those words.
Okay, let me put it this way. That is my understanding based on the words that you just used, that you, your recommendation is to follow CDC guidelines, which are currently, they may change tomorrow to 3, but currently are 6. So we're really not going back to school. We can't go back to school full time so long as that guideline is in place.
That is your interpretation, but those were not my words, Dr. Drudge. I'm so sorry you don't have an understanding.
Okay. Dr. Reynolds.
I'm sorry, David, you're not going to call on people, but I am going to call on you because you.
I'm in the middle of a committee report. I'm trying
to
get through this committee report.
You just said something while Dr. Drogic and Dr. Chase were talking, and I didn't hear you. I didn't know what you had said.
I said you can't get 100% of the way there, but you might be able to do more than we're doing now.
Okay, thank you.
Correct. That is correct, Mr. Warner. You may not be able to get 100%, but you can start the scaffolding and you can start the phasing process. That is absolutely correct. And that's all, they're all possibilities.
Right. So I think we're having a bit of a semantic argument here. I'm talking about full reopening.
Dr. Reynolds.
I was hoping to add that even if we were to utilize this 3 feet of spacing, we still aren't sure that we can house all of our students pre-K through 12 without the use of ECP. So that is a part of the conversation that we are having now. All decisions to be made moving forward is dependent upon when ECP can reopen, number one. Number two, and the measurement of student desks with either the 6 feet of distancing or the 3 feet of distancing as it relates to the current 58% of our students who are in person, plus whomever else chooses to come from remote into in-person based on the reopening plan.
Tracy.
Thank you. I'm going to defer to you, David, because you were right. You are in a committee meeting, so I'm sorry about that. So I have a couple of questions because I'm a little confused. I just heard Dr. Reynolds said 58% of our students are coming back hybrid right now. are, engaged in hybrid, then why do we need a count of students if we know it's 58%?
Well, we have 58%, but I need to count how many kids are at Highview, how many kids are at Lee F. Jackson, how many kids are at Woodlands Middle High School. So 58%, we're talking about in its totality. And so I have different numbers at different schools. I'll give you a case in point. I may have 58% of my 1,700 kids, but of that 58%, maybe 30% of them are at Woodlands Middle High School, and then the other percentage is spread out among the other schools. So it's really about counting bodies right now.
And thank you, Dr. Chase, for clarity. And it's very late, and
It's okay.
But wouldn't the principals know how many students come to their schools? Like, isn't this something we could just gather fairly quickly?
Yes,
Like
I
the
just asked Mr. Falcone to work with the principals, walk through the buildings with the principals to count bodies.
Okay, all right, it's okay.
That's an administrative thing that we will take care of internally. Yes. That's not necessarily something that,
Yeah, I'm deferring to you guys. So the next question I'm going to ask is about the spacing. Because I did hear you say that spacing is definitely an issue. I agree. We want Mr. Falcone to look at the spacing. Is it possible for the administration to use outside spaces, non-traditional learning spaces? I don't know that, I didn't speak to any other superintendents in other districts, so I don't know if they decided to just ignore the guidelines on their own or whatever. But I do know, because of parent friends that I have, that they're using non-traditional classroom spaces. And I don't know if that's helping with the 6 feet or 3 feet or whatever they're choosing to use in other districts. But I'm wondering if we can do that as well to kind of create more ability to have more students in the school. Are we able to do that?
I think all of those things are optional depending on the availability of tents, and I just don't know. So those things are all optional. And I just want to be really clear, because some of my superintendent buddies watch our board meetings. I would never say that any of my superintendent friends, neighbors, or anyone in the United States as superintendents have ignored rules. I think that people have found creative ways, depending on their board, their community, their spacing, their desks, the number of students in their district versus how much space they have. I think they may have found interesting ways to make it happen, but I would never think that any superintendent would go against their integrity to ignore rules. I want to be clear about that.
Okay, and then my last question was about, I heard you say some districts really invested in ventilation. So I saw the phase proposal, but I don't remember any recommendations this year for ventilation. So I'm wondering why, okay.
Okay, well, I remember that the board received a recommendation when Mary O'Neill was the assistant superintendent for business. There was a recommendation for $2.5 million.
That was a July meeting.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I'm sorry, I said that was a July meeting. I remember
that was a July meeting. So yes,
everyone talks about that.
Sure, there were recommendations made in July for $2.5 million. I think the board decided to only allow for 750. And so the administration did come to the board with such recommendations. So just want to make sure that.
Yes, and I will clarify about that, because I opened that chart a million times. If you look in that Google spreadsheet, you'll see I looked at that like crazy. What I recall, and anyone can watch the YouTube, is that the board voted to approve 750 now, and that if there was any more that was needed, you could come back for more. And so I don't ever recall being asked for more. So I guess it's water under the bridge and it's gone now. Like, we can't deal with it. I don't want to belabor it, but I want to be very clear that as a board member, I approved 750. I waited for more to come back. I checked that sheet frequently. It was updated. I think Ms. O'Neill did a great job of updating like every Friday what was done, which was awesome. But there was still a lot of money left in there. And then all of a sudden, there was I guess a switch in direction. I don't know if David, you have an answer as a facilities chair. why we switched from focusing on that to 2.5 million. There wasn't another proposal to come back for more
Oh, I'm
money.
sorry, Mr. Warner. Mr. Warner, I was just responding to Ms. Mayor's statement that there was never a proposal given to the board. There was a proposal. I just want to be clear that it was given. You reminded me that it was in July. So I just want to make sure that that was clarified.
Oh, so that maybe I misspoke. Maybe I misspoke. Ventilation was brought up in July and monies were approved, but then for some reason, I didn't get another, I had 750, but I never saw the rest of the 2.5. So I don't know what happened with that. I don't know if Mr. Warner knows that or I don't know who would know what happened.
So we included all of that in the 2.5 and and so all of that was included in the 2.5 and we did ask for the all-inclusive. And it was included. So unfortunately, that did not happen for whatever reason.
The board did not want to spend that much money at a go. They said our goal is to get the school open. Here's $750,000. Do what you have to do to get the school open now.
Right.
Okay? Not the long. Do what you have to get the school open now. Try to stay to $750,000 if you can.
Hold on, Cora.
Cora, I think, has been signaling. Cora, did you want to say something?
I have my hand
I've been trying to say something, but you guys keep going back and forth with each other. We did say that we were only going to give $750,000. But I remember us saying, if you need more, come back with an itemized list and you can have more. I remember that. So it was, I never saw an itemized anything, nor did I remember the board coming back to the board and asking for more money to work on the concerns at Bailey School.
We are coming back.
Were told that we would, and it never happened.
We are standing in front of you now with a recommendation that includes that. So we have the short-term fixes at Bailey.
Clear that up because it seems to be a problem.
We have the short-term fixes at Bailey in place.
David,
have to manufacture some stuff for the long-term fixes.
David.
So you've got that in front of you now. I think Terry Williams wanted to speak.
No, David, you have to allow Cora to finish speaking.
Oh, she's not done. All right, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead, Cora.
My goodness. What is wrong with you folks? It's just back and forth all the time. My goodness. Listen, I'm going to shut up because I'm getting a little bit disturbed and I don't want to lose my religion. So I'm just going to shut up and let you all talk. Oh, good Lord.
Okay, she's done.
I
Terry.
think I have my hand up. Well, no, Tracy, thank you, David, but Tracy, do I have the floor?
Yes, but I'm sorry, Mr. Williams, I deferred to David because he was right. This is a committee report.
Sorry. Yes,
yeah.
Sorry, I get it, sorry. So thank you for reminding us, Dr. Chase, about that 2.5 million. Just for the record and for the sake of transparency, and I don't want to drag you into it, David, but I know I voted for the 2.5 million right up front because as I recall, and I don't recall the particulars, Dr. Chase, but there was something, I think you and Mary shared something to the effect that that if we used most of that money up front, there was a benefit. There was some drawback to doing it piecemeal from a financial standpoint. I don't recall exactly what it was. Could you fill us in on that if you recall? And sorry to put you on the spot like that, but as I said, you guys made sense to me at the time, and that's why I voted to use that money then. Yeah, the board decided. I get if 4 people say yes, then it is a board decision. But fact of the matter is, for transparency, I was against that. So if you recall what I'm talking about, could you elaborate, please?
Sure. Mike, do you remember? I think Mr. Falcone, do you remember? I'm sorry. It's a little late.
Yes.
I to get loopy from looking at the screen.
The money, the board had to vote on it. You can't come back and say, I'm going to give you more money. And that was where I believe everybody did not understand it because it had to go to the Board of Ed. Actually, Board of Ed, it had to go to SED. Okay. And what everybody keeps on forgetting is that whatever you said to SED you were going to use that money for It doesn't say you got to come back and I can give you more. And that's where everybody forgot. So what happened was when you said 750,000, now we are just trying to get the ventilation up and running instead of saying, you know what, fix this, okay? Replace this unit, replace these, the louvers, replace these louvers, replace some pneumatics or some digital controls. But when the board said 750, and I was there when Mary kept on saying, whatever you vote on, you can't come back and just say, we have more money, give it to them, because the state education department said, you allowed this much, that's it. And I think that was the misunderstanding with everyone.
And Tracy and Dave, if I may just follow up. So obviously Mary's not here. Lisa, and I hate to put you on the spot, but from what Mike just said, is that kind of consistent with how state ed works in a situation or a project like that?
Yes.
Thank you, Lisa.
Tanya.
I just wanted to say that this isn't very productive, so maybe we could move on to something that is.
Great. Are there any other questions? Lisa, can you tell us how we're going to pay this?
Yes, Laser, can you put up that sheet?
Let's see, can I share screen, Laser?
There we go. There
Good.
we go.
You got it.
So I've been working over the past couple weeks with Carol and a colleague of hers, Laura Granelli from Jaspin, and our external auditors, Scott Oling, to try to gather all the money that we have in different capital accounts and the repair reserve account to specifically earmark where it is and what it is for. And we have successfully figured everything out, that in the repair reserve, we would have available $1,325,457. In the capital fund, that's not earmarked, is $1,329,594. Assigned for future capital projects, which is sitting in the general fund's fund balance right now, less the 750,000 that was used for the ventilation is $1,472,243. And then we have in the proposed budget for 2021, 2022, 1.3 million, as we did in the past 2 years, to be transferred to the capital fund for these kind of projects. So we have in total $5,427,294. If we took $99,000 out of that to use for the ECP improvements that we want to get done in time for school to start, and the proposed cost of phase 1 of the $5,135,500, which Fred and Jim just spoke about, we would still have about just a little less than $193,000 left over.
So if we had $31,000 of additional expenses for rodent proofing, we would still be we'd still be okay even if we don't have enough money in the general fund, because 192,000 is greater than 31. Am I correct?
Correct.
So we're good. All right, questions. Tanya.
Terry had his hand up.
All right, fine, Terry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I that was it. I didn't lower my hand. Sorry about that.
All right, then Tanya.
Same here. Sorry about that.
Great. Okay, so does it? So does anyone have any further questions regarding the finances? As you can see, all we have to do at this point is pass our budget.
Well, yes and no, David. What we have to do is we have to have a public hearing to use the repair reserve money, which I have the wording, and I propose to give to Dr. Chase for one of the next meetings in April, so we can get that initiated. And then the capital fund monies, it has been determined between the auditor and our attorney in what we have and how we have it structured, that it can be all done by resolution by the board. So yes, the money is there, it's ready to be used, as long as you guys, we can get phase 1 approved but the most important part is we have to have that public hearing,
Good.
which
Then-
can be attached to a board meeting.
Correct. And so I have two resolutions, and if we're good with these resolutions, they consist of the committee recommendation. And if we're good with those resolutions, then we can move forward.
David,
Yeah, go ahead, Tracy.
what's the two resolutions? 'Cause I haven't seen them and I'm stepping in for our president, so I'm confused.
The report that I sent earlier has the resolutions. I think if I
Okay.
can share screen, I can bring them up.
Yes, please. Are you talking about today you sent it?
Today I did send a report, and the end of the report has the two resolutions in it.
Okay, I'll pull it up, no worries.
Just a minute, let me get the right document up. Okay, and now I need to share screen. Let's see, Laser, am I able to share screen? I think.
Yes, you should be able to.
There we go.
At the end.
These are the recommendations from the report.
At the end, I just saw questions. I don't see any resolutions on my copy.
So you have a report. It has the meeting adjourned. The report I've been reading to you.
Okay.
Which was sent to the board as an email earlier today.
I know, but I was at work, David, so I didn't get to look through every single page of it, but
All right.
at the end of it,
There are
it
the
does say-
recommendations from the report.
It says questions at the bottom. I don't see the resolution is what I'm asking for.
You're probably looking at a different document. Does your document start out, the Finance and Facilities Committee met on 3/11?
Okay, you sent that email later in the day. I did see that email came through. I did not get to see that email.
So
I'm
if
sorry
you
about
scroll
that.
through that, so what we're asking for is not that you approve everything, but that you schedule a public hearing.
Okay.
And that you authorize a request for proposal for the energy performance contract. If you do those two things, we can move forward. So, would you like to read it or shall I read it to you?
I'll read it, David.
All right, go ahead. Number one.
Give me a second to open it up. Oh, I think I'm in the wrong thing here.
And it's also sitting on the screen in front of you.
Yeah, be it resolved.
Go
That
ahead.
probably would be easier, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Thank you. Be it resolved that the Board of Education, number one, schedule a public hearing to be held at our April 6, 2021 Board of Ed meeting to discuss proposed appropriations from the district's repair reserve fund relative to phase one facilities projects as presented this evening, and for repairs to the Early Childhood Center to facilitate full-time in-person instruction. Number two, authorize the superintendent or designee to issue a request for proposal or RFP for an emergency performance contract to address upgrades and repairs to our facilities that promote energy efficiency. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Can we have
Okay,
discussion?
It's been moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion?
Yes, Tracy. I'd just like to make sure, I like to rely on the experts. And I know a lot of people had some input here, including the folks from BBS. But Dr. Chase and through Dr. Chase, Mike, I just want to know your thoughts on both of these proposals, or both of these resolutions.
Mr. Williams, thank you for asking. I think that we need to move forward with this so that we could begin the process of opening full-time.
I had Ivy look at the language.
No, I'm not worried about the language. I'm confident in the language. I just want it is the substance of the language. I just want to make sure that Dr. Chase was on board with this, and through Dr. Chase, Mike Falcone was on board with this. So in your opinion, Dr. Chase, these two steps need to be taken for us to, provided that all the health guidelines are met, that we could do a phase one reopening, for lack of a better term, this semester, and then also permit us to reopen fully in the fall. Again, assuming that everything continues to on the trend that it's on.
I think it's important that we begin to start this process, and this resolution, this language, starts the process. So I am comfortable with it, but I also would like to hear from Mr. Falcone as well.
The EPC, there's no ifs, ands, or buts on the EPC. We have to move forward on that one. And the first one, when you say they have a resolution to get the early childhood center and facilitate, we have to move forward. I can't sit back, do nothing if you need to open up that building. So, yes.
Yes. And
Thank you.
And thank you, Mr. Williams. And to add, by opening up ECP does give us the opportunity to open full time. Now, when that will take place, I can't necessarily say right here on the Zoom call, but at least it begins the process of moving forward and moving in that direction.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is there any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
I will, thank you, everyone. I will, we will put the latest, post the latest version of the necessary documentation on the website prior to the public hearing. And that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, David. So now moving along the agenda, next we have the superintendent's report. Dr. Chase.
Actually, most of my report, I think, has already been addressed in this meeting. The only thing that I will add to my report is just reminding the parents to please fill out the survey. I'm also going to remind the parents to continue to fill out surveys in the future. I'm sure there will be several others before the end of the school year. Parents have been asking questions and responding to the survey and emailing me. Please continue to do so. I'm always happy to answer your question about the survey or any matter relating to that. The other thing I just want to share with the families is that if you are a Highview or an R.J. Bailey Elementary School family, you probably received communication about a potential after-school program. There is an open house tomorrow at 10:30 and another one at 6:30. Those parents from Highview and R.J. Bailey are encouraged to attend. It is a program, it's called clubxuniversity.com, and it's focused on ELA and mathematics support, a virtual online after-school program. I want to also remind parents that next week, Friday, is our last day before the spring break. We return April 6th. It is important that parents know that we do not return the 5th, which is a Monday. We are returning the 6th, which is Tuesday. And hopefully that Tuesday will be the beginning of our Friday schedule for in-person instruction. You will hear from me, parents, possibly no later than Monday of next week as to the survey results and the direction that the district is going. And so please look for my email, and we'll continue to post on our website and social media as well. I do want to also say thank you to the parents and the families and the community members who are out here, waited all this time for our meeting. It is midnight. Some people were here since 7 o'clock, and I know you have to put children to bed, but this conversation was very, very important, and parents wanted to be a part of it. So I do want to thank those families for being here. You still got to send your kids to school early tomorrow on time. You don't get a pass, and kids don't get a pass, but we want to thank you all for being a part of this. That is all that I have for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chase. And the Assistant Superintendent for Business report?
Yes, we began January of 2021 with a balance of $30,722,679. We received revenue of $14,327,209 and either dispersed or transferred money of $6,163,180 to end the month with $38,886,708. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And are there any additional committee reports? I have a CEC committee report that is based off of the notes that are not approved yet for the CEC committee. So what I'm going to do is actually just move forward to our recommendations, so that hopefully we can just kind of move forward with that at this point. Hold on. I also sent, was one of our recommendations is to, sorry, it's really late, to purchase a listserv program. And I sent that to the board for review. That will come up again in our April meeting. And I can't find our recommendations for some reason.
8K.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Miss
If
Mayor,
anyone else has them? Yes.
Miss Mayor, while you're doing that, is it
Yes.
possible to release BBS and Mr. Falcone? It is after midnight.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I'm expecting for Mike to be at the buildings counting heads at 5:30 in the morning.
Oh, that's when I get up.
Morning at work, so it would be nice if he can get at least 2 hours of sleep.
Okay, does anyone have any questions for them before they go?
Thank you for all your hard work. Have a good evening.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.
Thank you all. See you soon.
Okay.
Good night.
Good night. Good night, Mike.
Okay, I found one of my emails. So the recommendations that came from the CEC committee meeting were that, one, we asked that the district conduct a survey for parents' needs and wants for schools to reopen, that the district share an update on reopening plans for full-time, not hybrid learning, with consistent updates on reopening, building closures, active reported cases in GCSD with staff and students, also consistent current updates, that the website, specifically, we removed the blue banner at the bottom of the website. That might be something that can be done quickly. I don't know. Apparently, there's a blue banner if you open up the website. The recommendation was to remove that. Number 4, that we are, of course, every year we do our Nettie Jackson Extra Mile Award that the CEC committee is responsible for getting together and reviewing submissions for that award. And so we had volunteers for that committee. And those volunteers were our board president, Antoinette Darden-Cintron, Rosetta, help me with her last name.
Griffith Bullock.
Thank you. Rosetta Griffith Bullock, Sylvia Simon, Veerley Woodard, and Dr. Chase is our administrator on that committee. We also recommend that the website subcommittee have additional people on it. The people who volunteered for that were Evelyn McCormick, who's part of our PR firm, Laser Alert, who is part of our tech team in the district, Miguel Barrios, who's part of our PR firm as well, Kiana Washington, who is a parent, and Steve Morton, who is a parent. And the last recommendation, which I mentioned first when I was searching for this, was that the district purchase a listserv for electronic mailing and community outreach. And the listserv that was recommended is Civic Plus. And again, I sent that to the board ahead of time, and we won't be asking for action on that until April. You'll see later on in our agenda, there's some action on who is on the website subcommittee. And that is it for my report. Is there any other reports? Okay, let's move on to approval.
I do have a question.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see you.
No, I didn't raise my hand. So question for you. So regarding your report, all of the other than the website committee or subcommittee, all other recommendations that your committee is making is for the April meeting.
No, so I'm sorry, let me clarify. So the recommendations are to ask the district, so Dr. Chase, I guess this is for you, to ask you to do, and you and the staff to do a survey for parents. The next one was that the district share updates and continuing updates. Specifically, they liked your updates, Dr. Reynolds, where you were explaining certain information about reopening and distancing and reasons why people wanted that more frequently. The recommendation for the website for someone to remove the banner, whoever is responsible for updating the website. And then it was informative about the Nettie Jackson Extra Mile Award. The website subcommittee is later for action. And as well, the purchase for the listserv is something the board needs to vote on, and that will be in April. Does that clarify?
Yeah, I wish I had it in writing because my memory isn't good, but that's okay. I understand we're all busy, but I do recall your first recommendation, and this goes back to something that I previously mentioned at a meeting. Committees don't make recommendations to the superintendent. Committees make recommendations to the board. So that first recommendation, and I can't even remember now the particulars of it, but I do recall that you were making the recommendation to the superintendent. And Carol, if I'm wrong, please correct me, but this is not even a board committee. This is a district committee, but even board committees make recommendations, or district committees make recommendations to the board. So I think this is out of order, for lack of a better term.
So it just needs to be rephrased in that
Well, words are
what
important.
I believe the committee is requesting is that the Board of Education request from the superintendent that Dr. Chase, do as follows.
It was a survey to do a survey.
So it's a recommendation to the board that the Board of Education requests that either Dr. Chase take certain action or Dr. Reynolds take certain action. So it's simply rephrasing it.
So thank you, Terry. You're right. Words are important. I think I kind of jumped the gun because it is midnight. And I sent you the recommendations. I put in who was responsible for doing it. So that's my error, Terry. So I'll take that error. The committee is requesting that a survey be done. I know that the superintendent does the surveys. We don't send them out. So that's why I think I put district, because in my head, who's responsible for it? Is it something that the board would be doing? But you're right. It's a request to the board to request for the superintendent to do a survey. Thank you for clarifying for me, Terry. I'll be more careful. I see David Tan.
Wait. I'm not quite done yet. I'm not quite. Dave.
He's not done yet. Sorry.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sure. So thank you, thank you for reminding me that you sent an email. So I'm reading it here. Given my bad memory in the late hour. District share, number 2, district share an update on reopening plans for full-time, not hybrid learning, consistent updates on, okay. I thought between Dr. Chase and Dr. Reynolds, we were getting that, but okay. The website now, so listen, I know you said you didn't have any, you didn't want to spend any time with the notes, and believe me, I get that, but I'm a little concerned about the website proposal, because managing certain operational things by committee is a problem for me. Can
you save your concerns until we get to the website subcommittee part, or do you want to talk about it?
Oh no, okay, I'm sorry, you're right. I thought this was part of the resolution, but I can wait.
No, so, I forwarded you that email. What that is because Dr. Chase is our administrator. Every committee has an administrator. So I was sending the information in Dr. Chase so that she was aware of what the recommendations were from the committee, so she knew ahead of time.
Got it. All right. So
I wasn't, putting that in a resolution. That was just I'm sending it to you because you said you didn't know what, you're hearing it auditory or you're hearing it as opposed to reading it. So that's the only reason why I forwarded it, so you could understand.
Right. But you're making a recommendation to the board on that tonight, or no?
So the website subcommittee, can we discuss that when we get to that point?
Sure. I don't, but the question the point I was making, and if you want to discuss it then, I'm okay with it as well. this was specifically about the blue banner at the bottom of the website. Are you saying to me that it's better to discuss it as part of the website subcommittee discussion?
Nope. So the blue band, listen, Terry, the committee is full of people from our community and our families and our parents, and it was a recommendation that the blue banner at the bottom be removed. So
Right.
I don't know if you want to pull up the website now so you can see the blue banner.
I did. I saw it. I pulled it up.
Yeah, okay. So listen, this is recommendations. Obviously, you know, the administration, you're going to make your decision, Dr. Chase, about the blue banner. If you don't want to remove it, don't remove it. These are simply recommendations from the community engagement. That's it. There's no.
Well, I understand that, but again, and this is the part where words matter and words are important. And because it's a recommendation, I as a board member have a right to opine on the recommendation because the recommendation should be made to us. So the point that I was making is that you know, that blue banner is there because somebody who manages the website thought it was a good idea. My concern is, and this is, I don't want the concern to morph into a discussion necessarily about the website committee, but what I'm saying in general is I don't think it's a good idea for operational things in our district to be managed by a committee. So for instance, there's not a committee telling Amy Ashley Moore what to do as district treasurer. There's not a committee telling Lisa Raymond what to do as the assistant superintendent for business. And I in the website I see as something similar. It's an operational function. It's a beautiful website. It's one of the best that I've seen, and I've looked at a whole bunch of other people's websites, and you know, quite frankly, you know, that's an operational thing that doesn't need, in my opinion, it's just my opinion, it doesn't need, you know, 20 people weighing in on every little thing about it. That's just my opinion. And since the recommendation I'm thinking is to the board, you know, as a board member, I'm expressing that concern that, you know, we're turning this into something that is managed by a committee, and it should not be, in my opinion.
Okay, thank you so much. So can we move forward to approvals? Everybody's ready? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the instructional personnel items presented to the board for this evening?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. It's been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? No? Okay. Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Non-instructional personnel items. Is there a motion to approve the non-instructional personnel items presented to the board this evening?
So moved.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Section E. Is there a motion to approve the board action items presented to the board for approval this evening with the exception of item E6, which has been removed from the agenda?
So moved.
Discussion, please.
Can I get a second?
Second.
It's
Discussion,
been
please.
properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, question. E6, I'm sorry. Which one was that was removed? Was that the Employment Governance Committee?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, got it.
Thank you.
I have an additional question
Yes.
on the appointments and designations by the board. Is there a reason we don't annually specify who the data privacy officer for our district is? We want to consider adding that as an annual appointment.
That's not a bad idea.
Ashley, what is that position?
So I can give you my understanding, but obviously I defer to administration if I misstate anything. But the data privacy officer, as I understand it, is the main point of contact in our district, responsible for ensuring that data privacy policies, as well as notification of any changes in data privacy, are properly implemented. And during one of our technology committee meetings, we had someone from Lyric giving us an explanation of how that all works. And it turns out that it's actually the way the state does it is a little convoluted in that they only allow one person to be designated that title, and they will only send communications to that one person. And our understanding was it can very easily be something that can be overlooked if anyone that's designated that title has a million things on their plate. So the recommendation by Lyric was that we specifically call out who that is each year, and that we have a discussion to ensure that it's the person that's best suited, that has the time to be able to handle that, so nothing gets missed. So that's why I'm raising it.
Otherwise, it defaults to the superintendent.
Oh, okay. Never heard of it before, but
I think it's
I haven't heard of
relatively new legislation.
Well,
So-
whatever, if we need to have one, then we need to make sure that one is put in place, whoever it is.
Mhm.
So how do we go about doing that?
Right, so how do we do that? Is that, who would add that, Ashley?
So I can tell you what I understand, but I would defer to the administration. I thought I saw Dr. Reynolds had his hand up, so he may be able to fill us
Oh.
in better.
I'm so sorry, I didn't see your hand, Dr. Reynolds.
Through Dr. Chase, I'm going to ask if she can fill in any holes that I may leave open. The data privacy officer position and legislation is pretty recent. It's just been developed by New York State, and it's been ongoing for the past 2 years. The recommendation for that position is usually your director of technology, as most of the information that is required for the state repository, either for the portal or from New York State testing centers, come through that office. So that would probably be the recommendation annually, but I do not disagree that that should be an annual appointment so that it is ratified by the board. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little bit tired. So it is ratified by the board on an annual basis.
I see Dr. Chase too.
Dr. Reynolds, I do want to ask you a question. You did indicate the director of technology, but would it be more fitting to be for the CIO to do that?
Sorry, yes, Chief Information Officer.
Because it could
because
be.
that is, there's a difference.
Yeah.
Yes,
There is a difference. Yep.
yes.
Okay.
It should be the Chief Information Officer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I see Terry's hand.
Thank you. So before we vote on items in E, I thought you were going to tell us, well, contained within E is the appointment of the individuals for the website subcommittee. And if I heard you correctly, you said at that point you would discuss that a little bit more. Did I hear that correctly?
Absolutely. So are we done with Ashley's point of discussion?
Well,
that's what I thought.
I don't know. I'm going to bed.
Does anyone have any other questions about Ashley's point of discussion? All right, Ashley.
When are we supposed to do this?
Can I clarify?
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my point is that the existing annual, let me read you the exact verbiage here so we're on the same page. The existing appointments that we were going to approve currently do not contain that designation because, as Dr. Reynolds explained, it's a relatively new law that was just passed. So my recommendation or my request was, can we insert that into our annual appointments moving forward, including this one? That way it's an annual appointment. That was my request. And it sounds like everybody was on the same page. So from my perspective, I'm done if there's no one else has a question on it.
Okay, so Ivy,
I thought we're done.
is it okay to just, is it automatically added in here, or do we need to change the wording in some way?
I apologize, maybe it's the lateness of the hour, but I don't understand what that has to do with the board action items currently before the board. There is no appointment, no annual appointment listed on tonight's agenda. So that threw me off a little bit. I apologize if I missed something.
No,
But,
I think,
but in terms of adding it to the annual organization meeting, that's not a problem.
Okay, cool. Thank you for bringing that up, Ashley. Cora, were you saying something?
I was just saying we could hold it off until April. I mean, is it that important that it go? Oh, well, never mind. Let's just move on. What we want to do is move on.
I'm sorry. Thank you. Okay, Terry, we're up to you. We're on E8. Is that what you wanted to talk about?
Right. Well, if I heard you correctly, again, during your CEC presentation, you said you were going to talk more about this at this point in the meeting. Or was that the?
There's nothing else to talk about. I think
there's nothing else. Okay, I thought I heard you say that. That's
I
why
thought
I
you
asked.
had some concern about it, so I said if you could wait. But that was it.
But the only concern I had was not about the committee, but again, managing the website by committee. So, you know.
Okay, thank you so much.
Hey, Tracy?
Yes?
I just want to clarify for Ivy what my reference to. My reference was specifically to policy 1330, where we call out the exact titles that are appointed annually. So in that document, in that policy, we don't currently identify a data privacy officer. That was my point. I apologize if that wasn't clear.
Okay.
Oh, I understand now. But not everything that you approve annually is listed in board policy either. So it's not a problem to add it. If you want to add to memorialize it in board policy, you would just have to amend your board policy again, you know, do it again, do the presentation and then the approval.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so it's been moved and properly seconded. There's been discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. I do need to pause for a minute because I'm receiving notifications. Some people are concerned that all board members' voices are not heard. I do recall this being discussed before, but Ivy, can you just clarify about the votes if you do not hear each individual board member's vote?
The protocol we follow, if we do not hear individual votes, it's taken as an affirmative.
Thank you. I'm going to move forward to section F, which is finance items. Is there a motion to approve the finance items presented to the Board of Rule this evening?
So moved.
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Yes, I have discussion. So with regard to, I think this is the appropriate time to bring this up. So with regard to the warrant report, I had something pulled for concordant communications at the previous meeting, and I was provided with information, but it wasn't the information that I requested. The information that I requested was basically I wanted proof that the work had been done, the number of hours that the consultant said they performed on a particular task was done. And I used the example of the law firm. When they submit bills to us, they say, X number of hours spent on X subject, and they detail those subjects. They don't give it to us. So they could all be related to education, excuse me, but they don't say 20 hours related to education. They break it down so that all of those hours total up to 20. And that is actually the best practice of any service provider or agency, if you will. I've worked in an agency before where we worked on behalf of other companies, and for billing purposes, we had to very, very specifically notate our hours. I'm not going to belabor the point and hold this up any longer, but I am requesting that we receive very detailed information about what projects the firm is working on, and the hours spent on it. And if they need help how to do this, perhaps, and again, Lisa and Amy, I know you guys are busy. Perhaps you can detail to them how to do something like this, but this could raise a flag for us from an audit perspective. If during an audit, somebody says, points out that there's no specificity to the number of hours that they claim to have worked on our behalf. So, that's just my only request or point that I would make about this.
Okay, and I see David Warner's hand up.
So you would want this done not just for this particular client, but I assume the same rules would apply across the board. And so it's kind of a generic reform effort?
I guess so. But David, I've seen, whether it was Keenan Bean or whether it's Jasper Schlesinger, I'm just talking about those two because those are among our most significant service providers. Their notation, their bills have been, their invoices, have been detailed in the past. So this is what we should be requesting of everybody. Have I looked at everybody's like that? Probably not, but this one jumped out at me because, again, so concerns were raised when I saw things happening that the board had not approved. It's like they say, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. So, there was some noise there, and it raised a concern. So yeah, everybody should be doing it. A lot of our vendors currently do it that way.
So do we have a boilerplate or template language for contracts, and we could just insert a paragraph going forward requiring a certain kind of reporting? So slowly as new vendors and new contracts are signed, that'll become prevalent?
That would be a good idea. I would be okay with that. But I would say this though, having worked in a marketing communications agency before, and this is, basically the same. I know they do PR for us primarily, but the agencies that I've worked in also had a PR arm. This is pretty standard practice. This is not anything that's new here. So it's something that they should be comfortable with and should not be unreasonable. But per your point, David, that would be good if we as a board had a template for all vendors to adhere to for the purposes of tracking time and expenses.
Great.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else have any comments? Okay, it's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those
Aye.
opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, motion carries. Last section, is there a motion to approve the business items presented to the board for approval this evening?
So moved.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Are there any discussion?
Is this section G, Tracy?
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yes, section G, business.
Sure. Thank you.
Moved and properly seconded. All those in favor? Did I do that already? I did? I don't know.
Aye.
I'm tired. Okay. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Last section, closing items. Is there any new business?
Wait, was there a section H, pupil personnel?
I didn't do H. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Section H. Is there a motion to approve the pupil personnel services items presented to the board for approval this evening?
So moved.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Now we're going to move on to the closing items. Thank you for being patient with me. Dr. Reynolds, did you have anything, or you were reminding me I was missing H? Okay, thank you. Closing items I, any new business? Anyone? No? Wonderful. We're going to move on to adjournment. Can I get a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting?
So moved.
All right, seconded?
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion, any abstentions? Motion carries. Good night, all. It's 12:33 a.m.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.